And with that, I would start our discussion action this morning, looking for approval of the minutes for our commissioner work session held on July 31st, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Let's go to our 12:30 discussion regarding the Osprey Ranch building permits. Gary Myers here, Chad Meyerhofer, Ashley Tolman, Sean Wilkinson, Bill Ross. Sean's there? Sean's not here. Bill Ross is here. Cortland, of course, is here. Chris Crockett, Steve Burton, John Lewis. Who else do we have?
Shane?
We got Shane with us.
Eric Householder?
Eric, okay. Think they kept everybody. And a couple of guests. We got Miranda with us and Rob. So with that, I think we introduced it. Of course, we've got Commissioner Sharon Bowles to my right, Commissioner Jim Harvey to my left. Gary, you're listed first. We'll start with you.
Sure. Thanks for meeting with us, commissioners. And this is kind of gonna be an open forum discussion, if you will, a little bit. So as we've been working through the design of Osprey Ranch, the request ultimately, and I'll jump right to it, get right to the point. The request is being made to give kind of an advanced building permit process to some of the owners in Osprey. And as I met with John, my response to him was, well, our ordinance says that all the offsite improvements be complete and done and finished before we issue any building permits. And John was kind of looking for a little bit of a deviation from that stance, and I'll kind of let John present his point to that, is why he feels like it's an appropriate request to make.
Yeah, so, Gary, I totally respect your opinion, and you know that. I don't want to look for exemptions or anything, any favoritism, it just needs to be square, but I did want to point out the differences in this request. So Gage, I put a letter there that you guys can kind of look at, and it was just my attempt to try to keep everybody off the hook, because I know the elephant in the room is you've got some in Far West or wherever, somebody out there who built something, went down, didn't follow through, the homeowners are upset. I totally get that. And so my suggestion was that, and thank God for ARPA, but now that we're gonna be bonded, or once we're bonded, or whatever you wanna, fund it and put somewhere that is safe. If we drop dead, then it's gonna get made. But we have 3 people at Osprey who are just really trying to get started before winter hits. And, we're gonna be done with this system hopefully by November, but that'll be kind of too late to start foundations. These are 10,000 square foot type of houses. They're gonna take a good year and a half. No one's, trying to be done anytime next year, simply 24. But I guess the difference in our hardship case, if you will, is that, we took it upon ourselves, along with Wolf Creek, to not just build our own sewer system, but to build one for the town of Eden. And we're very proud of the fact that this thing is 2,000 capacity, not the 200 we need. And that conveyance system going all the way back to Wolf Creek will someday be used by the whole town of Eden and parts of Nordic and all sorts of other places. And, any help we can get to make that happen, like ARPA was wonderful. But, getting 3 of these started, one of these triggers a sale. They won't close and pay us until they have the right to build, in case they never have the right to build or who knows what. So I can understand their trepidation, but that helps fund this whole process that I feel like is a partnership, not just a developer's, project. So I tried to put together a letter, and again, Cortland may have a different version of it, but something that says we completely acknowledge the developer and the homeowner that no C of O is being requested here, and it's not expected in 23. It's not expected until all offsets are approved by the district and by the county. And, thank you for letting us get these projects started.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my pitch. So.
Okay, Cortland, you read that letter?
I've looked at it. Yeah, I saw it about 10 minutes ago for the first time, and
So give me your opinion.
well, it's asking for a deviation from the ordinance. The ordinance that we have says all required subdivision improvements shall be installed and pass inspection prior to issuance of any land use permit in a subdivision. And then there are some exceptions like asphalt, chip and seal, landscaping and so on, curb gutter and sidewalk, but the sewer ordinance or the sewer improvements are one that is required. So this would be as Gary said, a deviation or a departure from what the ordinance requires.
Okay, I think we understand now.
And in John's, I don't know if the correct word is defense or credit or whatever, John's obviously not as intimately familiar with the other subdivisions we made reference to, and you know, the challenges and the probably frustrations we've heard from some of the homeowners that bought property. Even through the purchase of the property, they signed documents recorded against the property that said they would potentially be putting themselves in a tight position until all the improvements were done. And so John probably, he wasn't aware of that, but yeah, I still think that my opinion, my recommendation would be to wait till we have all the offsite improvements done and complete before we issue a building permit.
Okay, that's your opinion.
Commissioner, do you mind if I add some perspective on this? I won't say in the meeting, the particular development that we're all thinking about. We're in the situation that we are, and please be mindful, John, that I'm not associating anything with your project.
Right.
At all. We are in the situation that we are because of exceptions. That has put us at more than likely litigation. The county did say that we're not going to get any occupancy.
Mhm.
I can tell you the homeowners, whether they knew it or not, feel differently now. They feel that they've been hung out to dry. We've got real estate agents and builders who are paying additional fees because of on their construction loans, and so there's penalties. And so the pressure to resolve really what isn't a county issue is immense. I get calls from them every single day. I was on the phone with one of them this morning and trying to handhold a developer through this, and the amount of resources that we have expended in county employee time has been astronomical. And so it can't just be looked at in isolation with this one, in my opinion. Others will look to it as a precedent. We did it with Snow Basin. The next thing or at least the request, the next thing is we got a request from Taylor Landing. If we want,
We approved the Taylor Landing to four-way,
yeah, and so
and that one turned out all right.
It did. There were some tight spots and.
Right.
So my recommendation would be is if you want to change the ordinance, then we can look at that without changing the ordinance, have the same rules apply. But when we start granting exceptions, there's risk. And are we willing to accept that risk? And what message does it send to other developers? And when does the ordinance actually become useless? So that's just, it's a side. It's I don't know what the perfect solution is, but if we're going to keep making exceptions to our ordinance, maybe we need to sit down and say, does our ordinance need to be updated?
Hey, Chris, the only thing I would add to that respectfully is that for the last 26 years, I've never burned the county, ever.
And that's why I want to say there's
Right.
a separation.
And what's different about this is that we're partnering with the county to put in Eden sewer. This is not Taylor Landing personal development. This is a partnership where we're both doing something that benefits thousands of people. So I feel like it's not a precedent. It's if they want to go put in the rest of sewer Eden Service District, they should maybe get a help too, but they're not. You know, the next person who comes to you isn't helping the city, they're helping themselves.
Yeah.
So that would be my take on that.
And certainly I respect, and it has been wonderful to work with on your development. But we can't just look at it in a vacuum. And also, you know, I recognize I'm not the decision maker at all. It's just to inform you of the potential risk and then to determine whether you want to do it. I mean, technically, it is not in accordance with the law as it's written. And so anytime you deviate from that, there is going to be risk and, anticipated and unanticipated consequences.
Yeah, well, so I actually did a site visit last week to look at that subdivision, look at the improvements or future improvements with the sewer, everything else, and met with Miranda and Rob this morning. It looks very optimistic that that's gonna be a great project for everybody and accomplish what we had hoped to accomplish in that part of Ogden Valley, which was to get rid of septic tanks. I understand, Chris, I understand very well our issues we've had out west. I've been involved with those meetings whenever they've had them. At the same time, I think, I look at this as being a little different situation. Number one, we've got, a developer that's tied in with our sewer district that we're funding with ARPA funding. That doesn't happen with a private development. You've got homes that won't be completed for 18 months, not 6 months that we have in that other subdivision. So I think there's a clear differential now, but I also understand very clearly the minute you make exceptions, the next one can pop up. So that gives me a little
Scott Harvey.
cause for, but I'm probably comfortable. And whether this is the agreement or not, or whether we need to look at an ordinance change, I think this is probably a proper request. I don't know how we'll get there. That's me. I'm gonna, leave it up to the other two commissioners basically to see how this goes.
I would only feel comfortable with it if we change the ordinance.
Okay,
And I recognize your points, I do. But when you make exceptions, it's just, it can be such a potential for trouble. If the ordinance is revised to include language about partnerships and the intent of partnerships or something like that, I would be okay with that, but I don't feel comfortable just deviating from it,
that's my main concern.
the way it's written.
Harv?
I think I'm right about in that same area. I think one of the differences that Mr. Lewis has pointed out, though, is we've got a proven track record with his developments, and so because of the short window, I could probably go either way on this one, on this particular one, but what's hard for me is once you make an exception one time, and how many times after do we do that? And I respect your situation, Gary. The staff recommendation, this is exactly what we talked about half hour ago. So I'm kind of on the fence on this.
Okay,
I just ask a question from a legal standpoint. Is it possible to attenuate the risk by more robust indemnification documentation?
It has to do, I appreciate what Chris said, because we've spent tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. It's no longer, it's all, so many pieces since then. It's been a pain in the butt.
So,
And it has nothing to do with development. I've not heard from him it's all these other ones now that are coming in.
Can you put together things like record information on the parcels that say, you're not gonna get a COE until you've done all these things? We did that in the last one.
Mhm.
And so are there additional protections that you can do? Probably. Maybe it's just things change when hasn't been built according to plan, or you now have the homeowners in there who just quite simply don't care that they've signed it. So legally, I have the ability to say, sorry, you can't get your COE. that doesn't change the pressure and the fact that the county is now put in a very bad light, saying that we are the ones who are stopping all of this. And it all comes back down to something simple is our ordinance was written specifically for a reason. Is so that developers would have an understanding, an idea of what to expect from the county when it comes to going through this process. And so if we're granting exceptions, really, what good is the rule in the first place? And so I don't even know what kind of modifications could be made. Or even if from a policy perspective, if that's a good idea. And so I think we need to come back and say, why did we pass the ordinance in the first place?
The extenuate, with all due respect, Chris, the extenuating circumstance for me is what Commissioner Forrest said. And no, well, Taylor Landing, isn't that the one where we dug it deeper and put those?
That's only gave permission to go ahead go to four-way.
Yeah, they went to four-way and they needed to complete that lift station, which through the process of installation of it, it was damaged. There was a warranty claim. It just,
But we had them go deeper in the ground too, right?
no,
Which
they
is the
didn't.
one we had them go deeper in the ground?
Did they go deeper on that one?
a regional lift station. See?
You're
Don't mean to,
right,
excuse me.
Commissioner. Now that I'm-
Two magic words, go ahead.
You are.
I don't hear those at home often, I
We did, now that I think about it, we did have to go all the way to 20. That's right. You're right. You're right. You are correct.
So, okay, so let me take this back just a little bit. We have one in error. Another one because of a sewer water problem. And while not having been, sometimes I need to go up there and put my feet on the ground. Yeah, I know you've done it, but I haven't done it.
I thought you learned that from Bronco.
Well, I didn't, but I haven't followed the rest of the thing there. So I'd like to hold this for a week.
Okay.
And to be able to go up and put my feet on the ground up there just to see exactly where we are on that. Cause it has to do in my mind, so you know where I'm thinking. Extenuating circumstances, again, because of a regional opportunity, in this case for sewer, not for water. So that's where I'm sitting right now.
Right, and at the end of the day, I mean, I will
Oh, I guess the other was water though, too.
support your decision, and Cortland, please
The other
feel free to
was water,
chime in
not
on
sewer.
this.
Yeah.
Is your staff is
Yeah,
reacting,
water, not sewer, sorry.
your staff is reacting as they should,
Yeah.
because we're following the ordinance.
The ordinance.
And so it makes it unpredictable as to where the commission is going to stand on this, and so it really, it's inefficient of staff time, because we're telling them to go down this one path when we really, it might be upended because of an exception. The law, as far as I'm aware, does not allow for you to have an exception, extenuating circumstances. Now, in this, Cortland, I'd appreciate your opinion on this. I think it could be written that way, where the commission has discretion in particular circumstances to make modifications or adjustments if it wants to. But I have no other choice but to say that your ordinance doesn't allow you to do this, because that's the way that it's written. And so we could probably sit down and say, is there a way to draft the ordinance to get to where you want, where you could, it gives the commission some more discretion in getting variances or modifications or changing timelines, but as of right now, the ordinance simply doesn't say that. Do you have any?
No, I agree with that. Just knowing that if you build exceptions or flexibility into the ordinance, then that does make it more legitimate. It also opens the door even more for people to come in and ask for those exceptions. So that may require even more time in the future of staff and of you to make those decisions, but at least that way it would be a possibility within the bounds of the ordinance.
May I?
Go ahead.
Here's the thing.
You're on a roll.
You're right, and you're doing exactly what I'd hoped you'd do. But right now, with the limited availability of product was caused by COVID. And the pipeline, that's not a pun, the pipeline of being used to get that puts some disadvantages in place that couldn't have been foreseen when the ordinance was created. And so it might be well to write in a provision, especially as it relates to underground or things to develop that infrastructure for that. I don't know those things. That's a hypothetical, not hypothetical. It's an assumption. I've made a few assumptions in there or assertions on my part. I don't know what the availability of that type of piping and things like that is. I can't say to that. We've experienced it at least one time, maybe two, as it relates to what was just brought up in the Taylor Landing situation. So there may be some flexibility needed in our day and age that didn't exist when this was written. And so I think for me, Mr. Chair, as I'm sitting right now and I've heard the discussion, I'd like to pause.
Okay,
So I wanted to get my feet on the ground, but two, to look at those other things and go a little.
wear your boots. All right, we're gonna hold it a week. I'm just gonna say, look, I passed a lot of legislation in my 12 years down at that White House on the hill down there. And a lot of that legislation that I ran and that I voted on, just about all of them had exceptions to law. I think we're at the point where no law is written or that applies across the board that's 100% accurate at every time. We have to build, and the state, you look through state code till you're bored to death, you'll see a lot of cases, if not the majority, and I would say actually 70-80%, have exceptions to that statute that you can find under certain conditions. Here you have a situation that comes down to one thing, which is financial capability to complete what they start. I think that we can come up with some tweaks to our, and I'm going to call it an exception because it's ordinance, it's not state law. We have the right to adjust it based upon how we best see going forward for this county. And I think we can come up with exceptions that tie back in financial responsibility in certain cases. And again, it comes down to, at the end of the day, it's a risk factor for the county. We want to eliminate, the reason that ordinance was in place, they wanted to eliminate all risk. Okay, but they didn't dig in deep enough to say, how else can we eliminate that risk? Can we do it by bonding? Can we do it by additional escrow? There's ways to take the risk out for Weber County Corporation. That's what I want to do with a tweak or whatever we need to do. And whether it's this case or not, but again, when you say it's hard and fast, I say, don't give me that, because every law that's passed has exceptions, amendments, and now it's time to make some. You have a law in place that works for majority of the people, that protects the public. That's what we want.
And I agree with you. I hope you understand. I have to give you the hard and fast.
Yeah,
because
no.
that's the way it's written. You're the body that determines whether or not to change.
No, I'm not chastising you for doing your job. You actually did a great job. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. What I'm saying, from a law standpoint, a policy standpoint, it's our job to look at, okay, does that law meet today's needs? And how can we tweak it to protect the public, at the same time, give good operators, developers / contractors, the ability to move forward after we know that we're secure for a public corporation.
And again, the nuance here is we have, unlike Taylor or other
Yeah.
cities, we have a really big lack of infrastructure.
Right.
And good citizens are trying their hardest to put that all back in place where it should have been a long time ago. So the exception here is maybe for building infrastructure that's missing, or, you know, things that help the whole community, not just the developer.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. So we need to find a path forward, whatever that is. And if we have to tweak the ordinance, then, and again, we'll look at our people here. I know that there's ordinance in places, exceptions in other counties across the state that we could look at.
Good. Sorry, Commissioner.
No, I get that, and I, that's not. I'm gonna hold that, I'm gonna suck that one back in. Really? Yeah, because it doesn't, I don't really necessarily care what they do in other places. I think we've got the best legal team in the whole state anyway. We have a track record of setting precedents. I thank you for what you've done. I think what you said is that I don't know that the existing ordinance is exactly working what needs to happen today. I can think of 5, 6 other options where I followed that, and because of the limited construction window, the requests have come, and I followed where you are, Gary, but they are coming more and more and more. The problem we have is I'm incredibly mindful because I'm almost branded with the sear of this other problem that's existing right now is still, my flesh still hurts from that. And so it's, but I almost wonder if it's the one bad apple. That's where I'm just in my thinking. We can talk about it though this next week.
Can I give you one more thing to think about,
Please.
commissioners? You know, one of the reasons these ordinances are written is because we try to set ground rules, so to speak. And to try to the point or question or request that Shane made a second ago, try to write something a little bit more in depth that has a little bit more teeth. The challenge is until the infrastructure is done and built and complete, there's so many things, unforeseen issues that are possible between today and when that infrastructure is done. And it could be anything. It could be anything from unforeseen issues in the ground to worldwide pandemics, like you've alluded to, Commissioner Harvey, to who knows what. But the reality of it is, those ordinances were created to avoid kind of a point of no return, so to speak, you know, where we get in the tricky situations we're facing with with the other subdivision that's been made reference to. So I respect Commissioner Farr, what you're saying, trying to find a workaround to that, but sometimes trying to do that puts you in a tricky situation as well down the road too, I guess is what I'm cautioning.
And I don't dispute that. So let's just say that what you say, let's say that sewer thing goes completely away for whatever reason, never complete.
Yeah,
What's the situation that John's in at that point in time would be to go back to a septic tank, right? I mean.
Right.
So it's, there's an option out. It's not like that's with
Yeah,
the
these three people
situation out
could put in
west.
Septic, but you know, we're trying not to do. that.
Well, I'm just saying, okay, I'm just looking at worst case scenario.
Right.
The situation we had out west had to do with secondary water that we don't control. It didn't have anything to do with us. It had to do with secondary water provider not agreeing to hook up that. And then again, part of our ordinance is we wouldn't give the occupancy without secondary water.
Yeah.
Here you have an option to, if that sewer never goes in, and again, the reason for that, the large investment that we've agreed with Miranda and her group is to have sewer. That's the end game, right?
right.
But they do have another option, which is not to, sit there and, okay, have Weber County put the sewer in. The easy solution would be to go to septic tank. Am I right or not?
Right, we're just trying not to. put in
Yeah.
Septic, but that would have been way cheaper.
Yeah,
Just wouldn't have fixed Eden doing it though.
no, but what I'm saying,
It is a
in this
bit-
particular case, and I think that's what as we look at addressing this, is there another option in case they can't connect? What's the
Worst case.
worst case scenario? They put in a septic tank, they've got ground up there and solve the problem. They're not gonna, in that case, they're not gonna leave the county hanging out to dry.
I think too, and I'm gonna just speak. Thank you for letting me proceed. I think at best case scenario, though, I think clear to go to C of O is not, I wouldn't be on board with that. I think go to 4-way. Be as far as I would want to go.
Yeah, we'd be fine with that. We're just trying to get the party started.
I
not
get it,
finish.
I get it, and it's a lot better than just doing the non-combustible like the frame,
Yeah.
footing and foundation, so
Right,
that's kind of,
that's broken.
because this is sewer, not water. And so that's kind of.
So I think there's a path going forward. If you want the staff to take a look at possibly amending the ordinance, I would set up a work session in the near future where you can have the key players come in and just give their opinion as to whether or not what provisions need to be in that ordinance. Legal's not gonna be in a position to tell you what's a good idea and what's not.
Right.
So I would sit down with, Gary,
No.
Sean, your building inspectors, and then they can identify, this is what's gonna happen if we change it or what they're comfortable with. And if it looks like you're gonna go actually modify the ordinance, and the risk goes down as far as letting one go forward, because we have an idea of what we're gonna require. If the commission decides that they just want to go ahead with this particular one, I would ask that, like you had mentioned earlier, are there indemnification provisions? It would be one where we just spell it out very, very clearly as to what will be allowed and what won't. And just based off our last experience that we're currently going through with the one out west, we would probably be very stringent in the request for indemnification. And it probably wouldn't be an issue with you all.
Then we'd be fine signing anything. Maybe we could do both at the same time.
It would be, we'd have to take direction from you.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, in my tenure here, I would like to look at amending the ordinance. It's gonna come up again. I'd like to look at amending the ordinance. So that's where I wanna go.
okay. You okay with that, or?
That's the only path forward for me, honestly. And you talk about successful deviations from the ordinance and unsuccessful ones, and that's irrelevant to me. If the ordinance doesn't say what we want it to say and allow us to do what we want to do, then it needs to be changed.
Okay,
But with that being said, to Gary's point, they need to be heavily involved in that. Because you make great points about what happens if if it doesn't play out the way we want. We need to make sure that we're comfortable with the worst case scenarios.
Which we may or may not know.
Right, we don't know.
Well, we're finding them out now. Yeah.
okay, all right. So we'll get together some suggestions on that. I think you look at identification, you look again, what are the options for somebody comes to us? If there's no other options, then, okay, this is what it is. If you have an option, and if that option's acceptable to the commission, then, that opportunity may exist for an exemption. But I think you have to take a look at what the options are.
Yeah, and to be honest, show my lack of knowledge, I don't even know what would be a situation that would present a good option. I would suggest we start looking at what other counties have done to see if they've already come up with a similar thing where they've allowed flexibility. And then I'd ask our experts to say what they're comfortable with, and say you go with our standard procedure unless there are extenuating circumstances and you have to come in and demonstrate. And that way, what that does is it not only protects, gives you an option. What it does is it protects the commission to say, well, they demonstrated to the satisfaction of the commission that there were extenuating circumstances to justify a deviation. So not everyone can just come in and say, well, you did it for this developer, why won't we do it?
We have to have a solid foundation on any type of exception.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Exactly.
And we should allow, and I think those need to be stated in an ordinance. So that it's very clear, so when you guys sit down with them, you can say, look, here's potential for you, but you better make sure your ducks are lined up for septic tank if in the event that doesn't happen, or culinary water, whatever the situation may be.
And I do recognize time is an issue.
Yeah.
And so and I can't speak for the people who will actually be coming up with the suggestions for what would be in the ordinance. I don't know what an appropriate response time would be.
So commissioners, first, this is gonna be county initiated?
Yeah.
Okay, so typically our ordinances take about 3 to 4 months. But because we have to go to both commissions and have public hearings with them on the planning commission side.
Right.
Before we take it to you. So probably 3 months would be probably the best case scenario. I'm wondering, because of that and the time period, and I know that this is a little bit contrary to our ordinance is if we get that ordinance in place, but we look at something like this and get something going so we can maybe accomplish both during that time frame. I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there to possibly, and I'm looking to you and legal for your input on that.
But it's certainly a possibility if the commission directs it. It's just, are they okay with the risks?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, Harvey's gonna go up and take a look at it on site. I think we'll kind of put some language together that may be acceptable, that would then go in an ordinance. I don't want to hold them up while we're doing, if we agree that what goes in the ordinance, we can say, and then we go through that process at the same time. And then our indemnification, I'm probably okay with that.
Once we define it.
Yeah, yeah. And then we're.
Chris, do you feel like that's something we could get on paper in the next couple of weeks?
You okay with that?
Honestly, I don't even know what we would put in the ordinance. It's because it's not my subject matter expertise. It's
Yeah,
just
we're
I know the
gonna-
legal process.
That's you guys?
yeah, we're gonna do some research.
Some kind of extenuating circumstances to justify a deviation.
And you have to realize that staff may come back and recommend that it's a bad idea to build an exception. So there's very good reasons why we did this, and then the commission would just have to decide whether or not they want to, which way they would want to go. And Rick, is it a land use ordinance?
Yes.
Or, okay, so he's right, it would take a little bit longer.
Yeah. I'm hoping that maybe we can get some draft language to you to consider in, I don't know if we'll be able to do it by next Monday, but the following Monday, we could probably get something put together.
That might,
Will that work out better?
that'd work out better for me,
Yeah.
since I won't be here next Monday.
That's right, that's right.
Let's do that. Let's look at a couple weeks.
Okay.
I think we gotta look at that dual option, but I think we need to have a pretty clear idea for that ordinance. We can look at, again, some suggestions that would, that could go into possible exceptions.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
I will say this, unless Gary and Rick and the departments that are involved, unless they're comfortable with it, I don't really feel confident giving consideration to those exceptions.
Okay.
They need to be spelled out so that
Yeah.
it doesn't put our staff in a situation where they're saying, why is the commission doing this?
I don't disagree. Yeah. Yeah. So if we can get there, we'll get there. If not, then
I'd like that recommendation, in fact, to come from. Then the
Maybe-
process would roll.
maybe
on.
Rick, you could work with Gary and look at some language that may be acceptable to both.
Definitely.
And I'd really say that that language that we use here would carry over into that, the revised ordinance.
Sure.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah, we can do that.
So we're not spinning wheels doing it twice. Okay, folks, anything else? Art, you were on a roll there. I want to end with that.
Well, I'm pretty well rounded. I can roll pretty easy.
All right, good. Thanks, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah. You're the next item. Yeah.
What's that? Who's this CRA?
So wait, no, I think our did.
You guys want to get something to eat?
Sure, what's the next item?
The CRA on Marriott-Slaterville and Roy City.
That's not.
Okay.
Your name's not on here, Ashley.
Thank you,
I'm
guys.
sure
Thank you.
when we were in went till 1:30 or not.
Uh,
No.
no,
One.
well, the 1:30 is Gary Chad.
Yeah, I'm gonna come to that. if
So
it's
you-
all right.
It looks to me like that's your group, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, grab a
Hey.
plate. You can. Mute. All right, welcome those online. We are ready to start our 1 o'clock discussion regarding CRA proposal presentations regarding Marriott-Slaterville and Roy City. Stephanie Russell, Scott Park, John Bond, Stephanie Ebert, Brandon Quinney, Sean Wilkinson is not here.
He's got a commitment outside the building
Okay,
with his family.
and we got Doug Larson with us. And go ahead and tell us,
Brody Flint from Roy City.
okay, Roy City,
And Rob Sanford.
Rob, okay. All right, Stephanie, this is your top of the list.
Absolutely. So, both, you'll have here two presentations today. They will both be, brief. These are to get the commission up to speed on two CRAs that we've been approached by, one with Marriott-Slaterville and with Roy City. Just to give you guys the background information on both of these, and then to get just a general idea, if you'd like, for the committee, the Economic Development Finance Committee, to move forward with the process. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Doug, and he will get you up to speed on where we're at with this particular project.
Great, Doug, go ahead.
Thank you all for having us today, and again, Commissioner, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Whose screen is sharing?
Mine,
Will you make that larger?
I don't know. I don't know if I can. I really don't know if I can. I'll try.
So we're now talking Marriott-Slaterville, right?
Yes, Marriott-Slaterville.
Okay.
Marriott-Slaterville, one step gets back to the map. Should be down a little bit.
It's just really not helping.
Down one more page. Really big.
That's good.
All right,
So, Marriott-Slaterville is requesting participation from the county and other entities in a new community reinvestment project area, commercial business district east, to orient you. Jeremiah's on 12th Street, it's just down here. This is 17th Street, of course, it comes up around. This is a 98-acre parcel that you can see primarily is vacant land. The city owns some of the real estate here. The primary developer that's coming in has purchased this piece of real estate. It's an Ogden business. We're happy to see Ogden businesses expand its model linen company. They're gonna, of course, keep their primary headquarters where they are in Ogden. They're gonna expand facilities out here. So that's the first phase of the development, and the budget and the net benefit analysis that you have in front of you is based solely on what that initial development is going to create within the area. We're asking for a participation at 10 years, 50% from all entities that were.
what's your percent?
50% for 10 years. Initially, when we met with your committee, we had understood that the project was going to start out with 100,000 square foot facility. And we based the budget off of that. As we worked with the developer, they're going to actually. And so initially, let me back up a little bit, we didn't have personal property included in the tax increment analysis. It was just real estate. And as we worked with that business, they're going to phase development of the building. So they're gonna, phase one will be a 50,000 square foot facility with all the equipment to the tune of about $14 million. Phase two will come sometime later. The budget that you have in front of you is based off the first building and the equipment only. And so within that 10-year period, if the second building comes online, and we anticipate other development is also gonna come online within the 10-year period, but the budget's not based on that. Again, it's all based on, phase one for model linen. They're likely to subdivide this out. We're understanding another company is gonna build a small industrial complex here. We just found out within the last month that model is also looking to purchase additional real estate to the east for other development. So we're excited about that.
Okay.
What spurred their move forward is our willingness to put in infrastructure along the 17th Street. So all the tax increment, other than the 10% set aside for housing and 3% for administration, 100% of the TIF dollars will go into public infrastructure specific for this project. It'll all be sewer. Right now, much of the improved property along 17th Street is relies on septic systems. We'll replace all that. And we're going to do it in concert with a road rebuild project that starts next year. So we only have to dig the road up one time. The funding is in place for the road project. Bonta Vista Water has funding in place to improve the culinary lines. We're gonna, the city's gonna deal with secondary lines, and the tax increment will support much of the cost to put the sewer system in.
When will your sewer go in?
In harmony with the road project next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and we anticipate all of that being done by the end of 2025. We, which is encouraged Model Linen to move a little bit faster than they were originally gonna build phase one. So we have the budget structured with tax increments starting no later than 2026, being paid in 2027. We hope it can be earlier than that, but we wanted to give everybody some comfort room and Model Linen some room. So we anticipate certainly by then.
So you'll bond for the sewer next year?
We won't need to. We'll have sufficient
How about
funding.
that?
You don't need a bond?
Yeah, well, the city set aside funding to put the money in, and so the city will pay itself back.
Okay,
Yeah. So
good. And have you got support from the school district and fire district and?
we have met with everybody preliminarily. We have not requested approval of interlocals yet. The fire district, we're due, we anticipate they'll approve the interlocal tomorrow evening. We've met preliminarily with Weber Basin, Bonta Vista, Central Weber, and they're, you know, like your committee have all indicated, support for the project. We've met with the school district a couple of times, and we're due to present to their board formally. We've met with their tax increment committee already, and initially with their board. We're going to meet with them on September 6th, and we anticipate approval from them. Did I get that within 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
tried to cover everything in 10 minutes.
So where we're at in the process for us is they've met with the committee several times, we've gone over their project area plan and budget, the proposed project area plan and budget, made a couple alterations here and there. And felt that it was ready to present to you at this time because they've done their due diligence. This is a public infrastructure project, which falls completely in line with our policy, our new policy that we're working on, as well as the percentages in the year. We're looking to just kind of get your feedback on this before we move forward.
Okay. So Doug, what do you do with zoning there? Because I've had some discussions with the mayor and your chief of staff out there. Some of that ground to the west I'm familiar with is 1 acre zone.
Yeah.
And they've indicated a reluctance in the past to do anything other than 1 acre home site. So why would you put a CRA that if you have 1 acre homes with no access,
All of this.
i.e. the road?
No, that's a wonderful question. All of this will go into a commercial or M1 zone, similar to what this industrial park is.
Okay, so would that be part of the interlocal that would be zoned for?
If you'd like it to be, we're happy to put that language in.
Well, I just know there's other property owners up there that have been a little discouraged with the city, in terms of saying, you know, you're doing Model N, but you go west of there, you gotta put in 1 acre home sites, which makes no sense at that location. Because you've got a railroad problem there that you're very much aware of.
Agree completely. And if it gives the county comfort to have that in the interlocal, that's fine. We can work with you to make sure that happens.
Do you have any, I think I know the answer to this, any long-term proposals to cure our access out of there due to railroad?
Oh, that's the frustrating part. You know, from a industrial commercial development perspective, that's always been the, it's great real estate, it's vacant. We don't have to reinvent or revitalize much. We have some infrastructure issues, which this is helping to solve. But the access is a problem and it's going to continue to be there. I guess, no, we don't have a solution.
Yeah.
It is the short answer. One thing that we were pleased with, given the number of trucks that will be going in and out from Model N, and
Yeah,
they weren't concerned about that problem.
which surprises me, but. Because,
That was the
we
top
actually,
of my list.
we actually looked at that, as you well know, for our road department.
Yes, sir.
And when Joe Hadley and the group went out there, just said, boy, we just can't, we can't deal with those half hour, sometimes hour waits, so.
Yeah.
I'm happy Model N was going there, but I question it.
And I wish we had the bigger map. It'll be interesting over time, we'll improve. This is the Marriott-Slaterville city boundary on the east end.
Right.
And so we'll improve 17th Street almost to that boundary. So running east of that, particularly given all the multifamily development that's up there. Would anticipate, we understand that Ogden may have some plans in the future to improve 17th Street because much more traffic is going to be loaded onto that eastbound.
No question.
Yeah.
No question about that. Okay, questions, commissioners? Commissioner Harvey, Commissioner Bowles. Well, looks like a reasonable proposal to me, Doug.
Thank you.
So I think you'll work with finance committee and
Yep, we'll get you.
what is your anticipated go date on this?
We'd like to record the interlocals by the end of this year.
Okay,
As we get through, we met with Model N again about a month ago. We indicated that we had a fair degree of confidence in participation, so that means funding that would be available. And we could light the road project up, next year, and they were very excited about that. And then a little while later, we came to understand that they're buying more property. So we certainly anticipate models light up sometime next year, year after at the latest.
good. Great. Okay,
I'll
Thank
get
you
back with you.
so much,
and
everybody.
We'll get you moving forward.
Okay,
thanks, Doug. Good to see
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thanks for being here. All right, Rob, are you running this or?
Yep.
Okay, Roy City.
Perfect. So if you want to go to that next page.
Okay.
So this is a unique project area where, a lot of times when you create a project area, there are two different ones. There's a site-specific project area. And there's more of a broader, larger acreage where it's about revitalizing an area. And we actually have both in this project. So and it's not as fancy as the map as Doug had, but so this is I-15 here. This is Riverdale Road, and this is 1900. So you have, here's the Harmon's development. This is your RV storage. And it goes down about to 6,000, a little further north than 6,000. And then this cutout right here would be where you have the Wells Fargo and the Wendy's right here. 600. The city spent the last probably 2 years going through and updating their general plan and really trying to promote smarter, more dense development along the 1900 corridor. And this project area is kind of a result of that updated plan, where we're really looking to revitalize and really, hopefully, the long vision is reinvent Roy City with this project area. The two specific projects that we have, Woodbury, they own this whole entire section right here. They are going to be building multi-use retail on the ground floor, and then a 5/2 Class A apartment building.
What's a 5/2?
So it's 2 stories of a parking structure and then 5 stories of a park.
So you've got
So it's 7
retail,
stories, yeah.
and then 2, and then 5, that's 8.
So it's, the retail's on the front of the parking, so it's retail
Hmm.
and then, but it's 7 stories total.
Wow.
And it's Class A, so it doesn't exist right now in Weber County. So this is, when you think of what type of apartments, it's really a sugar house type of feel. But they're really trying to help the RIC and you have a lot of those high-paid engineers that are looking for housing, looking for that type of Class A type of housing, and that's what they're gonna create here. But with this, it's a true redevelopment, infill development project. So, I'm from Roy, born in 1983. A lot of these buildings, they've never changed, right? So there hasn't really been any reinvestment. And so what we're looking to do is go in and really promote a higher and better use of the land along 1900. So, and that's gonna involve tearing down buildings, upgrading infrastructure, really promoting parking structures to help that density and help offset the traffic impact. And then as you go further south, there's a hotel project down in this area right here. And then there's a lot of projects on the east side that aren't gonna be in this project area, but they're waiting to see what we do. Oh, I'm sorry, on the west side.
The west side?
Yeah. So,
So you're not gonna include the west side now?
we're not gonna include it in the project area, but
Okay,
yeah, they're waiting to see, hey, how's this gonna shape
Okay.
out? So the Lotus Group owns this section over here across the street, and same thing, they're looking to do a hotel, apartments, kind of that multi-use, but they're not gonna be in the project, but they're kind of waiting to see how this all shapes out.
All right, Rob, where's the proposed, three rail line stop?
the trail?
So, yeah,
Three-rail
yeah, the mayor does want to connect this project into the 3-gate trails.
3 gate,
Three gate,
Yeah.
three rail, 3 gate, 220,
Yeah, so-
221.
2 rail, 3 gate.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, this project.
Y'all knew what I was talking about.
And-
I
and-
have,
and
keep
it's a
correcting
great
me, I've been correcting my whole life.
No, it's a good question, because the mayor has anticipation that they will connect this into that, and that would be part of the appeal of this particular area, is that
Yeah,
it does
With
connect.
Boyer involved, of course they will.
It'll connect
Well,
in.
mayor's all over this 3 gate trail. He's been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Woodbury has
Sure.
initially discussed removing that storage and having Class A office, something that's a lot better for that frontage along I-15. So that's something that so we really think that this project is perfect for really revitalizing this whole entire area. If you go to the next. So this is kind of what we've shown. So, we've taken kind of what the city is looking to do, and then we've built a model accordingly. We're thinking this will happen over a 10-year absorption schedule. And in total, you'll have about 847 of high density residential units, 311,000 square feet of commercial, and then 121,000 square feet of office. That could change as Woodbury acquires more land and as the development actually occurs and based off of the market and how the office bounces back. We anticipate creating about $232 million of new assessed value above and beyond the 49 million of base year. We are asking for 70% 20, which we know is a little high. And the main reason for that, if you want to scroll down to second to last page. Or one more. Is kind of that infill cost and that parking structure cost. We're showing that we're gonna have probably 1,200 stalls of parking. And currently it's about $30,000 a stall, so we have $36 million alone just in parking structure. There's some current market constraints that we've thrown in there that Woodbury's identified. And we really don't know what this to be determined amount is of that true infill redevelopment expense, but sending land, updating infrastructure, upsizing infrastructure, and taking down some of those buildings. We're actually meeting at 3 o'clock with the school district. We have had some initial discussions with their board members and superintendent, and they've seemed initially supportive of the project. We'll have a better understanding of how they feel about that 20-year, 70% after today. And then we've met with Weaver Basin initially and the sewer district.
Great, good.
Any questions?
Yeah, we like to kind of have that behind us before we commit.
Yeah.
And from
Any questions?
Yeah, from a time frame, similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we anticipate probably a 2025 trigger year. So Woodbury's kind of just waiting to see where this goes out, and then they'll turn dirt as soon as they are confident they have the money they need to make the project. That's
Good.
So,
Okay.
good question. So you said you're talking to the school district on that. Do you have, I mean, I know in some of the school district's policy isn't that high
Yes, 10, usually it's 11, 12, or 50%.
Yeah, and they've had difficulty in the past when there's housing components in there as well.
Yeah,
So if they come back and say, no, this is too much, what's plan B?
so we'll hopefully get them to participate even at 12, 50%, and then the city is willing to throw in a little other city money if needed for the project to happen. So I think the project will still go.
So if they did 12 years at 50%, you'd still ask us for 70% for 20 years and you just come up with the shortfall somewhere else.
Correct, yeah, if you'd be willing to do that.
Okay. Yeah, we just don't want you coming back and asking for 90.
No, we'll stick at
We
27.
have cities that do that around
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I
we
won't
be-
mention any
Yeah,
names.
we'll do 27. What we're asking you won't change based off what the school
Got it.
district says.
Okay,
Yeah, and our main concern at this point too, Rob, with some of our policy revision is that we want to see that increment from the county go specifically to public infrastructure. So if you're looking at public parking, you're looking at raising buildings, those types of pieces that the city would actually be taking on, not the developer, but the actual city. That falls in line with the direction that we're moving in.
Perfect, and we would be great in interlocal putting that, that.
And as I say, it's gonna be in your interlocal.
Public interest. And also, we didn't say it, but we're great having a cap in there too.
yeah, I was gonna ask you about the cap.
Yeah. We're
And I
always
was
good
gonna-
at that.
Okay, so 20-year,
20 years.
70%,
Yeah.
trigger date 2025.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people, they're just waiting for us, so we're gonna trigger it as fast as we can, once we get it solidified.
Got it. Okay,
With the cap.
questions, Stephanie?
I have a question, just, I guess
Brandon?
more generally,
Yeah, of course.
this has come up recently for our CRA management. When you guys, I don't know if you're gonna do it with this project, but when you take your housing allocation, do you have a place where you typically allocate it? Or do you just kind of have a fund that builds up? We're wondering if we can build something in on a specific use of the housing allocation as a condition of our CRA interlocals. So just your thoughts on
So
that.
what's really interesting is this would actually be the first Roy project that has housing allocation. All of their project areas are pre-93 Wild
Yeah.
West RDAs. They can really do whatever they want with the money. So we're having initial discussions with the council what they would like to do. So probably a little premature for Roy to decide what they want to do, but there's some counties that have done that. And I'm
Yeah,
happy to,
and we're moving in that direction
Yeah.
with all of our CRAs moving forward is not just having the trigger dates and the public infrastructure, but really having accountability as what you're actually using those funds for and having to report that annually, come back to the commission and say, oh, this is where we're at, this is what we use it for.
what's really interesting, and Stephanie's been involved in these conversations, but when they did the audit of
Mhm.
CRAs last year, they had a lot of findings that they wanted to implement into the legislation. And it made a lot of traction that we were gonna get an RDA bill that was gonna be drastically different and require a lot of those.
Yep.
Hey, put your goals in your plan, and then every year tell us, are you meeting those goals?
Yep.
And so the bill didn't get adopted, but we believe it will be adopted this year.
Yeah,
So a lot of those things will be state code, things that will happen.
and we're literally using that audit to craft our policy.
Yeah, but I think that's great, and I think it's great to throw benchmarks in,
Mhm.
you're in a local agreement. That's what something I always say is, we come in and say, here's the Taj Mahal, and then we give you a 7-Eleven. There should be some recourse that you guys could have for that. So I'm an advocate for benchmarks in your local agreement, and things like that. So I think it's a very smart policy.
We might be discussing the housing allocation in the future, just as part of Weaver County's participation, having a little more say in that.
Yep, that's great. And I think too, I'll tell Brody and say, I think cities should involve the county when they're deciding, hey, how should we use these, how dollars. Okay, thank you.
Perhaps to expand on that just for a second, for the commissioner's benefit, so we've had discussions with our housing authority. And the county helps more dramatically than some other cities do with very low income housing authority challenges in our community. I can say has their own. Weaver Housing does the rest. And it's that target group that could benefit a lot from this type of a discussion that cities participate in
Yeah.
a little bit more than they have in the past. So we're gonna find some equilibrium to help those that are less advantaged in the community. And the cities could participate a little bit more in a directed way using that tool.
Great. Thanks, John. All right, commissioners, that's all we have.
Perfect.
Okay, anything else, gentlemen?
Nope,
Okay, thanks.
so much.
Then you'll just work through finance and Stephanie and
Yep.
you know the drill.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
See you again.
All right, we're waiting for ARPA fund discussion. Brooke's supposed to be here. Hopefully this will be one of our last.
Open the door, just people will come in.
Yeah, then we'll just kick them out.
Are you finally done?
Okay.
Was that rude?
Meeting log. Meeting log.
No, you're good. You are just on a roll there.
Oh.
They want us to know.
Good points. Good points. Good points. Yeah, we're getting there. I love
You
that.
better have some of this birthday cake.
I probably will.
When we need to.
We'll build that in.
Yeah. See what it would look like.
Commissioner, would you mind handing me that mouse? I just need to see the login information.
I was one to take that away from budget.
My list of what was
Plenty of food, everyone get some.
I know, but.
Don't mind me. while I go.
I'm gonna ask for-
Yeah, it's rich. That sounds.
Oh, yeah, I know, tomatoes are on. Oh.
I
know, Brenda, so when you put that aside, mayonnaise and stuff. Oh. Garden tomatoes.
John, you're back.
It's starting to go on if I know.
There's food up there if you want to grab some.
You guys got any leftovers?
Yeah, if not, it goes to waste. We eat it.
Lasts about a month.
Or just goes to waste, so we take it home.
They'll eat it.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be the next 2 days long.
Right?
Anybody here yet? Mr. Scott? You go.
We can push Chad down for Gary. I'd rather somebody you think Gary is.
I can move, go ahead. move it.
Is this your stuff?
Yeah.
No, you should stay there.
Yeah.
Well, unless I need to talk. I'm moving you one spot, Gary. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it'd be better just.
Now that it's finally on.
Okay.
Nice to see a 50%. Request measures of 95 from my friends at Ogden City. Wow.
Probably tell you know, but what even matters.
I do.
Yeah.
Is that everything on the show? Is that the one you want me to show?
That would be better.
Well, I've got the original.
You giving us a full breakdown of where we are today?
I usually show that picture just so that you can see, but we're gonna focus specifically on the sewer in the Upper Valley, plus a couple of the just minimal. So this is the one you want to break.
It's up to you. You can move yours.
Eggs right in the middle.
It's a
Other one.
Okay.
There's a Raptors game tonight.
Oh, my God.
I think that was in our last case, the last filter, right?
That's there because.
This one. Or was it-
Really? I knew I liked it.
Which one is this one you want?
Yeah.
Or is it that one? Okay. All right, we get this back to you, Commissioner.
That's just your reminder. Of what-
All right.
what you're doing.
Well, Commissioner Harvey will be joining us shortly, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. This will be our 1:30 discussion regarding ARPA funds. Brooke Stewart's with us, Scott Park, Linnell Jensen, John Bond, Sean Wilkinson, Chris Crockett's here, Brandon Quinney is still here. Gary Myers, Chad here. Where's Chad?
He's gone. He had to leave.
He had to leave. All right, we excuse him. All right, so Brooke, are you up? Or Scott Park? Who's in a, head this up?
I mean, I'll just show you quickly where we're at, just zooming back out as we normally do. So here's the projects that we previously awarded and we funded. The ones that were in question, Youth Impact Center, we funded them just a little bit more. Really, we want to focus today on the sewer in the Upper Valley. So we had previously allocated $8 million and said, Gary, will you work with the two different parties and figure out how we can use that $8 million in the Upper Valley?
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at now. We just wanted to go over some of those. So Brooke, I'll let you direct me. Is this where we want to start? Let me see if I can make
If
it
we
bigger.
can talk just quickly about the couple ones that aren't super complicated.
Yeah.
Just to make sure we're heading in the right direction, the direction we want to do on the youth impact. from what I heard, you guys were okay with an extra $100,000. So legal has drafted that agreement. We're ready to send it out for signatures once you guys give us approval to do that.
Was that on the roof that they had?
Yeah, they had the roof collapse and then in order to finish the teen center and the kitchen
Yeah.
and do the repairs,
Was that another 100,000?
100,000 is what I heard.
Okay, yeah.
So you guys are okay if we send that
Uh-huh,
out for signatures and then bring it before the commission?
Yep.
Great. And then the next one is we received word from Ogden Nature Center that they went over their broadband budget by just a little bit. So they were requesting an additional, is it 7,300? So 7,300?
Was that?
Yeah,
I thought it was some back to
it was $7,356. So that's just a request that's out there if you guys are interested in programming a little bit more funding towards that.
I think we've got that in there, don't we?
We have contingency to cover that. Yeah, they
Yeah.
originally got 20.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
For $7,300, yeah.
Okay, we'll have legal draft.
You
that
okay
up
with
and
the
get that over
73
for
or?
signatures as well.
So Ogden Nature Center, we gave him money, then we gave him some more money.
We gave them 25,000 total and they've completed the project and it went over by the extra $7,300. So they're just requesting
Okay.
the additional to pay for the whole project.
7356.
I was worried, 73, that's 56.
You're all right?
Make them come up with a 56. No.
All right, so since we've moved past those, if we want, we can just turn the time over to Gary to give you a report on. where
Okay,
we're
Gary,
at.
talk to us about sewer.
So at your direction, we met with all the mentioned parties. Kind of went through everything with them, including doing some of the similar brain damage in thinking through the process of what they had looked at and their engineer had looked at on how to best service the whole area up there. Essentially, what we came down to was there's not an easy, cheap way to get Old Town Eden brought into this loop. That's really what it came down to. We looked at, honestly, their engineer and I sat down on numerous different phone calls, also with the addition of Rob Thomas, thinking through different areas of how he's looked at it. Rob's pretty good wealth of knowledge of the area and has looked at that area for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So, ironically, as I was suggesting things, he was literally just playing whack-a-mole with them, saying, well, we already thought of that, and here's why we didn't do it. And the points he brought up, I'm like, that's a very valid point, and I'm not gonna push back against that. And so I thought I had found some silver bullets there to try to make it a little bit bigger option. What I learned was they have probably the best scenario set up for the location of lift stations and the manholes and everything. And so
Okay.
that's great. Works out good. So yeah, so to that end, I'm very comfortable with the different scenarios they had with bringing in Osprey Ranch and bringing in Newtown Eden, I guess is what we're calling that area over there behind the car wash in that area, that portion. We kind of had to jostle around the location of the manhole at the four-way stop a little bit, and that really didn't result in major issues, hiccups, burdens at any point.
That's the lift station?
No, it's basically the last manhole before the
Oh, man,
lift
okay.
station. So
Got it.
it's where Osprey feeds into and where Newtown will
Okay.
pressurize and feed into. Then as we got looking at the other area, one of the areas I struggled with was the Cove Branch gravity line. Reason being, excuse me, is because in looking at that, none of that building there, the homes, residences in that area really exist. And the intention of the ARPA money was not for future residences, it's for existing residences. And looking at it, I just didn't see any way to say any of those residences, homes were existing and qualified under that rule of the ARPA. And so John and Shane, regrettably, I wasn't able to throw in a lot of support behind the COVID, but hopefully that wasn't the major lion's share of any of that, and that's not too big of a torpedo or bomb to
Totally get it.
absorb on that. So, and then, the one other thing I wanted to throw out for consideration was in talking with Rob, ironically, kind of some of that area has, well, the valley as a whole, it's kind of been in the vision of everybody that we'd love to remove all the septic systems altogether. Some of our community septic systems
an option would be to add them into the Osprey line. So what I'm proposing would be suggesting another line or creating some sort of a smaller lift station over at Crimson Ridge and Radford Hills to tie into the system. The challenge is, there's two challenges. One of them I was most concerned about was capacity at the plant, if that could be accommodated. Second one was cost. And I don't know if there's a way to maybe redirect money, or if money is not being awarded in one direction or another, if there's a way to add some extra money into the award to the Wolf Creek area. Chad and I did some real rough, quick numbers, and we're thinking probably another $1 million would remove the Crimson Ridge and Radford Hills lift stations from our purview and take them completely off the county's oversight, and then have Wolf Creek Water and Sewer absorb those into there.
Do we have capacity?
That would be us.
I guess that's a question for Miranda.
And
How many total homes?
I wish Chad was here. I want to say, Miranda, Crimson was around 30 and Radford was around 20 or so, 25. Does that
That
sound
sounds
right?
about right.
And who is going to pay the impact fees, to be fair to our existing homeowners who have all paid impact fees?
Yeah,
Who's going to pay those impact fees?
I understand this is a little bit of a last minute hidden.
And we need to
Surprise.
make sure we've got the right trajectory on being able to
Totally
expand
get it,
plans
totally
in the
get it.
future. So
And our thought
those are
was,
the two thoughts.
yeah, no, great thoughts. Our thought was, is if there was some sort of a special assessment area within your district to cover those homes right there, to cover that cost.
What is
as
the
well as-
impact fee, if I may ask? What is your impact fee per connection per house?
$4,631.
We have a little bit of money we've built up in the fund balance, but not that much.
Yeah, not for 50, 60 homes, right?
That's the
right.
current impact fee.
And
What
it,
I'm saying is we need to have the right trajectory to be able to expand the plant. Until we've resolved our land issues, I'm not comfortable discussing additional. We've
Fair enough.
figured out what we can do with New Eden. We figured out what we can do with Old Eden. Going further is another kettle of fish
Yeah.
until we figured that things out land-wise.
well, and like I say, it was simply just a last minute addition that we looked at and thought, it'd be really nice. The intention is just to take the entire valley off subject, right? I think everybody's on board with that. And if there was a way to make it happen with this initial windfall of money to try to repurpose it or anything. I don't know if any of the other offers or requests have changed, reduced, or been adjusted. If there's a way to help offset some of those costs that way, that might be an option as well too. So-
Can we table it for a few months and come back to it?
And I don't know that, I'll let Scott speak to the time frame on tabling negotiations of this or not. How much time do we have on this before?
It's gotta be obligated by end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026, so.
We probably could table it for a little while. Yeah, but I don't know, it was looking at it, there's really not another real great feasible option to annex that area into any districts.
No.
And so it made that much more sense in mine and Chad's eyes, and looking at that as Wolf Creek is the most viable option to that. And it's now the time to do it. It's a great time, and any time to do it is a great time in mine and Chad's eyes. We would love to make that happen, but in all seriousness, when we have a windfall and there's construction happening and there's capacity, certainly like to look at that as closely as we can.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
You said Radford is Crimson.
Uh-huh.
How many more available lots are there in Crimson?
We're down to less than a handful.
Not many.
What does that mean, a handful?
Probably less than 3.
Okay, so we're talking in totality, 75, 80, maybe 100. We'll say 100.
And that's if we added in the yacht club as well too. That's kind of there as well.
Let me just keep in my mind going here.
Mhm.
So if in fact, just moving forward, and I don't mean to go off too much on a tangent, if that line existed, and I agree, there would need to be impact fees paid by the homeowners. If and some of the other stuff, when their systems fail, well, it's our system.
It's our system, yeah.
Okay, I like the idea of tabling that. I gotta think that through a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I say something?
Please.
I mean,
That's up to the chair. Oh,
May I say something, Chair?
go ahead.
I fully recognize that the nitrate contribution from those units is critical because of the distance, particularly the yacht club.
Right.
I fully recognize that, but I have to be fair to my existing homeowners. If other people have to pay impact fees, we have to figure out a way, just as we did when we told Powder Mountain District, we would take over some units. Impact fees, there had to be a way that that was figured out.
Oh.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Agreed. No, I don't think there's anybody in this room would disagree that the district has to be paid for the impact fees, whatever works out. I think that, we put this on pause, you know, we talked this morning, Miranda, about looking at maybe a year from right now, July or August next year, we'll know where we sit with some of these other projects. In terms of, have they used those allocated funds? Have they not? We have a little contingency in there. At that point in time, Gary, I think that we've got time to possibly look at that. But I noticed, so you pulled Old Town Eden out.
We did.
Which has the biggest impact on nitrates? And from a business standpoint, Old Town has a lot more, I guess, reasons to be hooked to the sewer than Crimson or Radford.
Oh, that's a good point.
But from a business standpoint, you know, you've got Carlos and Harlow's, you've got kind of a commercial base there. You bring a lot more people in with Crimson and Radford, but you bring more businesses in with Old Town.
You know, one of the challenges in bringing Old Town on, Commissioner, it's a great question. One of the challenges in bringing Old Town on was the location of where you ultimately add the lift station. The way it's set up now, Osprey Ranch is getting there mostly by gravitational. Very little lift. So this would require the addition of a whole nother lift station, probably the size and equal capacity of what the Brown lift station is.
So that's $1 million
or more.
Okay.
And on top of that, there was a couple complications there. Number one was finding a suitable area to put the lift station. Number two was acquiring the land where that lift station would be. In visiting with the engineers, there was enough, well, I'll just call it what it was, opposition to development of the area, that finding a likely seller was not just challenging, but almost impossible. And so if we had to go the route of eminent domain, knowing what little experience I have with eminent domain, I don't believe we'd meet the ultimate timetable to have the money committed, and spent in the correct timeframe. Does that help answer that question? It wasn't so much the perspective of which had the higher concentrate. It was more what was most likely possible.
What's feasible.
Do
you agree with that, Miranda?
Yes, sir.
Paige? Yeah.
I just want to add, and again, thank you to Miranda and her group for all they've done to help this all work. So looking forward, you know, I think what we're committed to do this next 12 months, now that this part is done, is to help Wolf Creek Water and Sewer get the land to expand on and to raise $10-15 million to build the next capacity. Because, you know, we remember when we did the whole Eden Crossing Osprey thing, we set aside 200 things so that the capacity of Wolf Creek wasn't exceeded. So we're down 200 in that sense. So we really need to help them get capacity built. They need dirt to do that. We're trying to help them with that. So I think over the next 12 months, we're gonna have a lot of progress, I hope, in the next growth spurt that we go through.
Yeah.
We're really stuck until then, so.
Right.
Sure.
Anyway, that's our commitment.
And Miranda made it pretty clear that reuse pond becomes critical, you know, for the future, so.
Huge.
Okay, well, I think we get it. All right, what else, Gary?
That's pretty much it. Have I forgot anything, Brooke, that we didn't discuss on this?
Just one thing I wanted to point out on the funding chart is that, the 175,000, we just put it down into the reuse pond, but that is up for your guys' decision on where you'd like that to go.
Listen,
There was 8 million total.
Right.
So, Gary's recommendation is to not fund COVID, since it's more future infrastructure. So we just put that 175.
You gave my money to Miranda?
Just to call them.
Please, you're welcome.
We could have made an other, but if you want to spend the full 8, within that, in those projects,
So that 175 is there, but it snuck into the 2 million.
it's into the reuse fund now, but that's up for your guys' decision on where you'd
All right,
like that to go. It can either go back into the ARPA pot or, into one of the projects.
In the
All right.
previous
Listed.
presentation, unless it's already been awarded, there was another million plus 1.2, 1.3 from Powder Mountain Water Sewer Improvement District. That's conspicuously off the list.
Yes, we hadn't talked about Powder Mountain. So we had a similar meeting, with Powder Mountain for them to come in and present, what they'd like to do with the 1.2. They were kind of mulling over some options and we haven't heard back. on
Okay.
a Proposal
So
yet.
we're waiting on them.
Okay,
Second discussion.
The 1.2's been reserved, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
City-
it hasn't been
it's sitting
allocated
out
yet.
there.
You
But
see
we
in front
haven't.
of you. It's
Yeah.
still.
So
reserved
here
for them.
you've gone through and said, these are the particular 8, whatever projects we have here. Here's the amount of money. So when we do an interlocal, that's what it'll look like.
Yeah, the next step on this, I think, is a funding agreement. If you're okay with this concept, then the next step is to have Bren draft up the agreements.
Okay.
wow, they're that far along.
Okay, is this your recommendation? Brooks, Linnell, JB,
It is.
this is your,
Again, the Radford, I think, needs to be on the table and discussed. We
I
have a
agree.
Variety of topics that are being compressed into this night, as we talked about earlier this morning. This is another one that we need to leave on the table and thoroughly beat the heck out of. And if we can get to a point of a better outcome, we need to get to that. But that aside, I think we're almost there.
well, I think you've got support. If we can get approval with, where we are a year from now, we look at what funds may be available. Did you say $1 million or?
For the Radford,
Yeah,
yeah, we were just under 1 million and looking at the pressure pipe plus a small lift station to lift up the yacht club.
Okay.
So we'll get this, and then once we get Powder Mountain Water and Sewer onto the next page of topics and projects.
Yeah.
We should have a better full package for you.
and we'll have a better idea of where we are with our existing allocations, where they are with their projects, I should say.
Yep.
So. Okay, you okay with that?
I like what John Bond, I'll second, not second, but I'll enforce. I like what he said there. It's too bad we don't have a willing seller for an opportunity
Yeah.
for Old Town.
Yeah.
That would be, because I think that idea going there instead of over by Radford and Crimson's a much better idea.
Well, I
Just
think
reserve the line, just to have it there.
Well, and nothing says that in the future, Old Town can't be added in, right?
At the cost of,
Well, then that's.
who's gonna put that pipe in the ground?
Good
Whose
question.
expense? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
all
don't,
valid points.
No,
However, to bookend it and not bring in Radford and Crimson right now, we felt would be kind of short-sighted.
I
which is
think
why
that's
added that in.
good, but I like what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you there. Just two different sides of that same
Sure.
coin. One
Absolutely.
business, one, both. We could do them all, do them both, I
It'd
should
be
say.
great. Yeah, I'd love to
Be
see
great,
them all.
but. I'm not sure we've got the funds in place right now to do that, so.
No.
Okay, Scott, anything else? Brooke? We good?
You know, I have a question, and this is just maybe my ignorance, but, so John Lewis, on this, let's see, the Osprey line, is that the whole cost of that line? I mean, that 1.5 million?
Oh, no, we
Yeah.
spent millions and millions. It's an
That's just
oversized
the-
line that will go all the way to Nordic.
Okay,
So this is just the upsizing of it.
okay, because I, just looking at the invoice on it, I thought that was the total cost on it.
I
but-
wish.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
They could only wish, but,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Anything else?
But I do think we've got, didn't we have, Scott, like 900,000 of contingent still, we're,
We do, but that's for everybody.
yeah.
And it depends on what we decide to do with, we still have a question out west with Little Mountain
Right.
and the
We
total
do.
cost of all that. So
Good.
there's, unfortunately, it's not the last ARPA meeting we're gonna have. I'm
No.
hoping that this is the last one we have to have in the Upper Valley for a little while. But we still have other areas of the county we gotta figure out.
Yeah, we got out west, we'll deal with There's been some changes out there.
Yeah. But if you're okay with this, commissioners, I mean, you're not taking a formal vote, but we'll have Brandon draft up the interlocal agreements with Wolf Creek and with John Lewis's group and, get those to you for your review.
Any reason not to do that, Miranda?
No, sir. We're good.
John?
Thank you.
Same? Good.
Thank you very much. In fact,
Appreciate it.
I have heard endlessly from you commissioners that you are never blank. So. This
Oh,
is
look at that.
your thank you.
That's a happy day, right there. Boy.
I wish Bronco was here to see that. Thanks, Miranda. Appreciate it.
Maybe you can take a photo.
Wow, that is wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's.
Most of the signatures are on the back.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's great.
That's very thoughtful.
That's great. See, we can't use that, but I'm not getting thanked anymore, Hart.
Yeah, I know it. Taking the wind out of my sail.
We do from the community, thank you. We really do. Thank you so much.
Appreciate, you guys have been the ones that kind of helped, this spur this on, so.
Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, nothing else, we'll go to our next agenda item. Thanks very much. Gary, Brooke,
Thank you.
Scott, Cornell, JB, great work.
Good job.
Now it's up to Brandon.
Holy mackerel.
We didn't get you back on schedule, but we tried.
Oh, you did.
Wow.
Yeah, you did.
Wow, look at that.
Sure did.
We have a 2-3.
Yeah, you got 10 minutes now.
Calls. Oh, motion to saunter?
I thought it was a half.
Yes, it's on it for 10 minutes. You got it. We're sauntering. That's nice of them.
Yeah.
Except that card won't stay out.
Maybe I can just, can I look at your, is sheriff's coming in at 3, right? Or is there, what do you want to look at? Just sheriff's on top 3, right?
Thank you.
Sheriff's at 3. Yeah, okay, so I'll come back to that one.
They need us to weigh in on.
Smart field of rezone, whatever that is.
If we've already, the work's already been done, then it's not just a matter of contract, but it's.
I don't think so.
Unjust enrichment.
So the problem is that, so the one, the work's already done. We just have- It's not the vendor's fault that we didn't. That we need to get somebody to put the pavement down, because we've already got it prepped. If it rains and snows and we leave it for waste of this. The only real one was the work construction contract for the 600 biggest one, unfortunately. And the vendors already procured materials, they've already got out and subcontracted different areas of it. And so if we were to do that now, well, yes, legally there is. We would burn a lot of bridges, and the project's not unnecessary, it just wasn't budgeted for. So I don't think we, but we need to have, and our controls actually were appropriate, they detected this on a timely basis, so. It's not even like there was a control weakness, it was that somebody did something dumb and they got caught doing something dumb, so now we just need to figure it out. So, but I don't think that there's, I don't think we go after the executive director.
If you send me a. It'd be. Sure. I managed to.
How do you like the book more?
That was the original, that's the original. That was back in 2020. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, fine. But it still was on there. That was what we're gonna use on the exhibit for.
Alright.
I mean, the whole thing.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
It's the exhibit, the county.
I was not, I asked Courtney.
Scale of 1 to 10, how bad was that?
Yeah.
Boy, the weather's fun.
Did you get some food there, JB?
Do you need a?
I ate what I left.
All
Alright, you brought your own, didn't you?
My wife had rerun today from yesterday.
You did?
I thought I've never seen the filtration.
So I'm good.
No, it's included.
We'll get some cake. She didn't bring a cake for you.
It's like huge request.
You see that nice little card?
Got into because we didn't. So, yeah, I don't disagree. That's funny, that was hilarious.
This amount.
What's the 231? The 231 was something,
Yeah, let me know if you need.
discussion regarding smart fields rezone. Felix, so I was just gonna come back to the sheriff. Mr. Bond, are you? Free for 50 minutes?
Yeah, I just want to make sure Crockett's okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
okay.
gonna stay in.
It's been a week. We got another, a second
3:30?
request for a preliminary injunction, temporary restraining order. I've had maybe one in my entire career here, and we got two in 1 week. So.
Same issue or different?
No, completely separate. So we got one from the Eccles family and then one from the individual.
Have some cake, man. Thank you. I did have
For a
a
while,
slice
so
of that one.
they're just timed.
Oh, good, sure, piece of the other.
So. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and just 2 minutes a year. What do we hear on our airport? Anything?
So
Far from it.
Okay, we're now ready to start our 2:30 discussion regarding the smart fields rezone. We got Felix with us, Charlie, Rick. Where's Rick? Rick's there. Get something. Sean's back. I miss anybody? And of course, Chris Crockett is still with us. So Felix, your first step. Do you want to start it?
Sure thing, yeah. What I have here, just a couple of handouts. This is simple, just a development agreement. Part of the rezone application is there are some details related to that. that are
Where is
within
this?
Development agreement. So this is in the Western Weber area, 2200 south and 1800 south and 4300 west.
All right.
And what they're doing is they're looking to present a rezone proposal to you next week. If everything looks good, and what would they be is changing the zoning from A1 to the R115. And
How many acres we talking about?
we're talking about 40 acres.
Does it fit into our master plan that way?
It does, yep.
There's no exceptions, no little. It's all the way it should be, right, according to the new master plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only difference is the new pathway connectivity and street connectivity ordinance that you guys adopted just a couple of months ago. It requires a pathway connection every 400 feet. Because of the way that these streets are laid out and the intersection of 4300, we're a little bit concerned about having that many pedestrian crossings on 4300. And so we work with the applicant actually worked with us to reduce the crossings on 43, which is planned on being a fairly wide connector road. If at some point in the future, we could ever get a bridge over the railroad tracks again. Well, I say again, we never had a bridge, but there's always a crossing there. So just reducing that pedestrian crossing on 43, that's the only difference.
You said 40 acres, Felix?
Yes.
Do my math there. Okay, so he's below his maximum he could do at 15,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. If I
Yeah.
read this, 81 lots.
Mhm.
All
So
right.
Part of the reason why we have the development agreement with this is that because there's some special things that he wants to pertain to this development. We're holding him to some pathway connections
Yeah,
and a push button, like a flashing crossing on 4700 west. 4300 west. And we're also holding him to so there's also some allowance for, because part of this development plan has some larger size lots and there's some advantages, but there's also some disadvantages with R1 zoning is it really takes away any opportunity for agriculture. And so his thought was with some of these larger parcels that are, like half acre and 1 acre parcels that he'd like to be able to still pursue some agricultural uses on that. So we're like, okay, well, let's include some of those ag uses that are in the RE15 zone, which they're still not large scale intensive, but still he has that opportunity for lots that are half acre and larger. And so we written that into the development agreement. And also just making sure that his right of way widths are in conformity with the general plan, transportation plan for those.
What agricultural uses is he talking about?
Really just what's in the RE15 zone code.
Primarily horse property.
Horses.
What about a cow?
It
Yeah.
wouldn't limit.
That's,
You could do a horse or a cow, they equal the same.
can you do a mini cow?
You can grow a mini cow on a half an acre.
Can you?
Yeah, that's why I asked.
All right, good.
mhm.
Bringing protein back to the plate of America. Dinner table of America.
That's right.
So
I like it.
40 acres, how many lots?
He's asking for 81.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's across two
That's-
phases.
He could, if he went straight 15,000, he could do 116.
Yeah. That's good. I'm okay with that.
Have we dealt with this developer before? I don't even know who this
Yeah,
is.
Mr. Dade Rose, he purchased the property from Pat Burns
Oh,
And so now he's kind of him, I believe Dade and his partner are kind of running with it.
okay.
I forget his partner's name.
One thing to keep in mind, just to the south of this property is the Hooper Slough right there. And so what the plan calls for is a pathway running along the Hooper Slough. This doesn't actually touch that pathway area, but these guys have agreed to provide connections to a future pathway there. And so there's a couple of spots that'll be providing connections to that pathway. We would normally ask for more connections to the south in a connectivity incentivized subdivision like this. But where that slough is there, and where we want a more linear park type pathway there, we figured less interruptions of that pathway would be better.
Yeah,
And so that's why I think the reasons you don't see that to the south. And I also want to put the bug in your ear that we're hoping that we can use that slough for a pathway in the future.
I like that. In fact, that's exactly what I was hoping you were gonna say.
Oh, good. Most of the slough right now is on private property, so we'll just have to work with those other landowners as they come in.
okay. All right, so what do you need from us?
Well, really just, mainly just to bring this to your attention, we'd like to have it on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Okay, well, I won't be here, so.
But Sharon and
Get
I
things
will.
done.
I won't be putting a halt to it.
Is the meeting still on for Tuesday?
I think so.
We decided we'd do the meeting if there were pressing matters that we didn't want to slow up staff or process. That was it.
Depends on what's on the agenda.
Yes,
then I'll make
depends
a
on
decision.
what's on the agenda.
Okay, anything else?
It's important for us to help again.
It is. Yeah, if you can't wave at them, help them, right?
Or do both.
Or do both.
Yeah, that was fast. I think that's it.
Okay, is that it?
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's get the sheriff in here. Wow, we're moving today.
Yes.
Here,
Felix.
This Thursday.
All right.
So
You're scheduled, but I wanted to. What do you think?
Anything from your end, Sean?
just for, I've already talked to you about this, but for the other two, North Ogden Divide. We're looking at that chip seal on the second and third weekends of September. So we'll actually close down the divide those 2 weekends. We just wanted to tell you and Commissioner Harvey as well. That's what makes the most sense for the contractor, so
Yes.
that avoids any closures during school or weekdays or anything like that.
What was that again?
North Ogden Divide.
Divide.
Will be chip sealed the second and third weekend of November,
Wow.
excuse me, of September.
Whoa,
We
okay.
will actually close down the divide for Saturday and Sunday on the 9th and 10th and the 16th and 17th.
Versus doing one lane across. It's,
Yeah, no.
that's too dangerous a road to have one way. You
Yeah.
know, idiots will try to pass and.
And trying to have kids going back and forth to school while
Yeah.
there's one lane, we just would rather. avoid it.
School in session, all those Monday through Friday, both.
It
those?
is, yep.
Okay. Just the weekend or traffic.
Yeah, so with the construction finishing up in the canyon, it was difficult for us to do it earlier than that. Otherwise, we would have done it in August before school and we would have avoided Labor Day and all of that. So we'll keep it open for Labor Day. The following 2 weekends, we'll close it.
I think the canyon's about done, aren't they?
They've got, yeah, they're about done. They've got another week to 2 weeks of just finishing things up.
So who's doing that work? UDOT or?
UDOT through, I think it's Horrocks Engineering
Okay,
is doing that, yeah.
all right, good. Yeah, they've been some long waits this last couple weeks up there.
Yeah,
In the canyon.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll bet it's a nice place to live up there.
Sometimes. You know, some of you flatlanders get a little
Yeah.
cold in the winter.
Yeah.
It's not like West Haven where you can get by with a half an inch of snow a year.
Flatlander. Hey, we had some snow this
I
year.
know.
It's like 3/4 of an inch.
Hey, I did my share of shoveling.
You did?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Good for you.
Remember when I first said that, Jim? You're like,
Wow.
wait a minute, you shovel?
You really?
Two things I don't do, mow lawns. and shovel
I
snow.
love both of
Oh
those.
my gosh.
I love them.
You like to mow lawns?
It's.
I've never done
very-
one.
Therapeutic.
It is
I have
absolutely.
I don't
never done
disagree
one.
with
Well,
you.
maybe that's why I have problems.
Come and mow my lawn, Stephanie, I have an acre.
I mean, you
I've
can
never
either
done
go out
one.
and buy a lawnmower, or you can spend it on a shrink. You decide.
Yeah, that's true. The second's probably way more expensive.
It is. I don't know. Harv's got a pretty pricey mower. I jumped on that T27 of mine. What was it, Monday? No,
Yeah.
Saturday.
Okay,
It rips right along.
and you did it like this? Did you
Is
go
that
like
what you
this?
did?
Yeah.
No, I meant you kept your fingers so you didn't have to. Are you being able?
No,
to
I just do it with one hand. I can avoid this finger. Yeah.
I don't, are you, that's what I do. I'm like this.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah. It works out.
You know, just the only difference between riding that lawnmower and riding the helicopter is you just gotta add your feet in a twist right here, you know,
Then you're done.
and you can learn how to run
I'm
the
sure that's
helicopter.
really
That's
how
it,
that
that's
works.
it.
Yeah.
Hey, Casey
That's
said he
how it
wants-
is, that's.
Just like a
If
mower.
I'm ever in a bind, I won't be able to do either, because I've never driven a lawnmower either. So,
Casey's ready to take you up in his airplane.
I don't wanna land on Fremont Island,
You
I can
don't?
tell you that.
They were out there last.
I know.
They landed on.
I don't have any desire. There's still, you know, he might have killed 4 million bugs,
Oh.
but there's still 4 billion to go. I'm never going out to that place again.
Yeah, you and Bronco did that. I said, I'm
Oh,
not going.
Judas, I'm not going out there.
Bronco was high on that.
I was too, and never been to that part of the county. And I need to go east of Causey.
Go east of Causey?
Yeah, some of that property way up in there.
Well, you can,
I've been to Causey Estates, but there's some,
no, go up where they have the
Trail.
salmon. Yeah. Go up the river,
yeah, that's what I need to do.
that trail. What do they call that? What's that trail? Anyway, you gotta be careful. It's kind of a tricky trail.
Yeah. The last time I was up there around, hiking around Causey, I got chased by a moose.
oh,
That
sorry.
doesn't go too good with the guy my build.
You outran him, I hope.
Oh.
Yeah.
But every time I'd stop, I'd hear. And then I'd answer back, I know. I was freaked out, man, I was freaked out.
Was that east of Causey?
Yeah, right, I was kind of going around where that arm goes out there. We were started on the east and worked our way back to the west. On that trail that goes over, looks over Skull Creek.
Yeah.
And, ew, scary. Scary. I never did see the moose because it was so thick. The foliage was so thick,
I never saw him.
but I heard him.
Hmm.
Well, I figured it was a moose. But it was,
I bet it wasn't a bear, was it?
could have been something, all I knew, it wasn't a foreign, there was enough air exhausting out of there. Could have been an elephant for all I know. I mean, that was a lot of air, and I figured, holy crap, I could be killed. I really did, I thought, I'm gonna be killed right here on the trail.
That's scary.
Swiss for me,
So you said you're coming to the event tonight?
don't know.
Well, you better find out.
Well, I've got a lot of meetings between now and then. That's at 6 or 7.
Well, the dinner starts at 6.
Yeah.
But the event doesn't take place till 8, so you're fine. Which is a little late for my blood. So that means that
He's probably got a nice pad up there, doesn't he?
Scott, oh yeah, it's a nice place. But if they start, I mean, the symphony will never start on time. So by the time they get going at 8:30,
Really late.
we'll be out of there till 10.
Just up in the valley, is this the land trust?
No, this is symphony. Like their tour they do around Utah. So they're doing the park tonight.
Oh, really?
That's really late.
Yeah,
Wow.
The Huntsville Park?
Huntsville Park.
Oh,
Is
cool.
it free?
Yeah.
That's nice, but that is kind of, I would think 7 would be a better starting time for that.
Yeah,
It's gonna get dark.
yeah, 8:15, that surprised me a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't get you. I don't know.
Well, you know, you got your invite.
Yeah. Where's Scott Anderson's place from there?
Well, you know where Cemetery Road is, Cemetery Point.
Yeah,
Going right down Cemetery Point. The last road that you can cut off to the right It's probably like, what would it be, 72 or 7100 east? Well, you've driven down there and you've seen those fake cows out in the pasture?
Yeah,
The black and white cows?
yeah,
That's him.
Belted Galloway.
Belted gut, yeah, exactly. But they're fake.
Yeah, those are his?
Mhm.
You know, I ought to ask him if he wants some real ones.
I can already tell you the answer that he doesn't.
I know where he can get them.
From you?
Are they cutouts?
No,
No.
they're like plaster cows.
Yeah. Oh, they're big plastic or, yeah.
Odd.
Well, it's just like they make those archery target. I mean, they.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm surprised he doesn't get a few more arrows in them. Maybe he does.
We have legislative dinner this week too.
you have legislative, oh, yeah, on Wednesday, of course we.
Where?
Oh, it's a
Oh, Wednesday.
legislative dinner this week too at night.
Try it Wednesday. Wow. John, did you get some to eat?
You know what? I had lunch before, so thank you very much.
I just went and picked it up.
This would have been better, but my wife wanted something specific, so
What was that, son?
in and out.
That a girl, you know, I love that, Sonny. Why, my kind of girl right there. Wow.
I just want a chocolate shake and some french fries.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, the burgers aren't very
Okay.
good. Highly overrated. Like Five Guys too. They don't have it out in the south, but they have Five Guys. I'll tell you what's good. Burly Birds is still good. 12th
Haven't
Street.
tried that yet.
Oh
good.
my God.
They have a good burger.
It is good and they have good onion rings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My son took me there for lunch a couple weeks ago and I was like, how did I not know this
Good
existed?
Get the fat con, try that.
Back con.
What did I got? What did I get?
Return this
I got
one for me.
it was basically a double baked
No.
cheese. It was like.
He's so far over where he is right now.
They have funny names.
I can for $5,000.
I want to see you take on their challenge. I've heard about it.
What's the challenge?
It's like
Well, there's no way.
plus a big shake and a bunch of fries. Sounds,
I just said ramen.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I did a hot wings contest one time and I did pretty good at it. But the next day, my mouth was numb and
Animal shelter.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
came out bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Bad. Burning ring of fire, is what we call that.
Yep.
And I didn't win, which was even worse. I was like, dang it, I was so close. I came in second.
That's not what the contract read. The contract read that they signed, when those dogs are off leash again, that they would be put down. And those dogs are attacking dogs. There, once a dog gets,
He said he went to ER.
Jim,
he did?
Craig Dangerfield, did he call you?
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
yeah.
The one by the pit bull?
Yeah. He
Yeah,
called
he
me.
said-
Last week, he called me last week. The last week he called me.
So,
Last week, Monday, they were
He
supposed
call
to
you
be
too?
put down.
oh, he's in our ward, but,
He is.
so one of his neighbors caught it on their ring camera, like you can't see it. But you just hear Craig like yelling for help and
That's
he had
awful.
just had shoulder surgery like 2 weeks before, so he is in a sling. He just got a new lap dog because he like guides hunting and stuff. He was taking it for a walk up the street
Keep me posted. Welcome, Sheriff. Good to see you on this great August day, which is actually August 7th. We're gonna start our 3 p.m. Sheriff Office update. Sheriff Brian Arbon's with us, and I'm sure he has some great pearls of wisdom for us. Time's yours.
I don't know how pearly it's gonna get, but I'll try. There's just a lot going on, as you can imagine, so I'll start with the
good stuff.
The lighter stuff. Yeah. So the north, the Weber County Fire District is, they think they can beat us again in the guns versus hosers.
When is that?
Thursday night.
Baseball?
Softball.
Softball.
So that's it.
They haven't beat you yet, have they?
They tried.
They lost like 32-0 last time.
What time? What
It's
time?
7 p.m. So that will be at the fairgrounds. It's it's a fundraiser, as you know, every year. This year we've decided to
Give
go
them a
with
10-run advantage.
no, 100 run. Just kidding. That will be again at the fairgrounds, 7 p.m. I've got Ryan Wilcox. He's the home plate ump.
Is he?
Tim Billings will be the the field ump, and then Richard Murray, who's with the school district. I think he's the Bonneville principal. He'll be the announcer. And where Jimmy Pitts's organization will be, who will be donating fundraising for.
Fun. Okay.
Jimmy Pitts is just a wonderful individual. He's our chaplain, him and his group.
Yeah.
And then, as you know, I told you maybe a month ago, Chief Reese and I and 3 other staff will be in Philadelphia. We're leaving at 6 a.m. Thursday morning for the ACA.
Wait, you just said the game was Thursday night.
Yes.
And you're leaving Thursday
Thursday morning, yes. So we're going back, we're getting our accreditation for the jail. This is a really big deal. So we're being recognized and also being challenged at the same time by the group. We did pass inspection, which, this is good. And, with the recent, news, which is heartbreaking because of the deaths that have occurred in the jail. I just wish we were able to respond, which, but we can't, but, there is, anyway. As you guys know too, by getting accredited, it will impact our insurance, which a reduction in cost for the county as well. So on that note.
Good. They run through USIP, Chris? Okay.
Yeah.
We better make sure that Johnny's aware of that. Knock our rate down a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll pass that information along, and whatever response you get from them out there, positive, good, I think will be useful in the future with the bond.
Okay.
John Bond.
As far as, are we okay to talk about the bond?
It's on sheriff update, so you.
Oh, okay. No, there's so much good. It's just overwhelming. At the office, we're calling it the 3.5 month sprint that we're in right now. Commissioners, I know that you already know this, but John Bond, Chris Crockett, and Stephanie have just been exceptionally. I can't say that right now, but Scott have been exceptionally now, and I said that with tongue in cheek, just to be fair, but you want to talk about people who have reached out to me specifically and said things like, and this also includes Commissioner Bowles, what do you need? What can we do? I know this is a heavy lift. all hands on deck kind of approach, you know, in our day and age, it seems like, a culture of what do I get? Right? And rather that's quite the opposite with these individuals. It's what can we do for you? And, you know, life in general, sometimes things just seem overwhelming right now. It just, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It really is. But some days it's just like, how are we going to get this done? And you get these individuals I named, just like, let's go to work. What do you need? What can we do? It's just wonderful. I know you would expect that, but just hear it from me. It's just been wonderful to hear that. It's humbling, it's inspirational, and sometimes you don't expect it, but that's what you got working here at the county. It's very appreciated. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
As far as Scott Park, I'm still working on my appreciation. No, I'm just kidding.
You'll warm up to it.
No, one thing I do appreciate about Scott Park is we've had a meeting or two with GSBS, and I can't stand people that tell me what they think I want to hear, right? And Scott Park is a wonderful check and balance, especially with GSBS, right? I mean, seriously, right? Because that's when we all get in trouble, you know? And so he's kind of holding them to fire. John was doing that very much too. And so when we asked for the final numbers, John sent me a text and it said something like, hey, I'm really shocked at the final number that GSBS gave us because it went from 78 to 88. I said, John, I think it's because you scared them. Yeah. You know, and we went kind of back and forth. And I said, you know what? I don't want to be like the school district. I don't want to be like these ones that are going back or, you know, someone's got to come back to the county and say, you know what, we need 5 extra million or something like that. And I said, I think we kind of should be like thanking them because they put the times in and maybe they were spooked. So I think it was a safe, that's my opinion.
He had the choice.
Yeah.
He had the choice to come back and say, I have confidence in my numbers. It's 78, I'm staying with it.
Yeah.
And he had that choice, but he didn't. And when he didn't, that makes me skittish, even beyond the 88 that it is right now. And so we can talk about it. So,
sure.
That needs to be discussed further.
Yeah.
Either today or later.
And who knows, maybe he changes the numbers again.
He doesn't have enough information yet, I don't think, to project out clear.
Yeah, well, he has good historical data. He's not fully designed out well enough that he can give out. I mean, I feel bad for him because we're asking him to project out, look at his crystal ball. He's not even half the way designed out. So he's put a contingency in there. He didn't index his numbers for inflation. My fear with Ogden City is that they're not the fastest at getting through this permit process. So when he built in an extra, essentially 12 months of delay, he had to add the construction inflation into that. So that's where the number jumped from the 78 to the 88. And I actually think his estimates now are much more realistic given what we've seen with Ogden. So I'm with you. I don't want to say 78 and then come back and have it be 90 or 88 because we don't have 10 extra $1 million.
That's right.
Laying down.
But this is the expectation that I have, because this is not my wheelhouse. But I'm not saying it's not mine as an excuse not to know, but you know, this is why I depend on John and Scott, right? And this is how we work together, because you know, I just, who knows what's going to happen next year? I've heard recession. We've been hearing it for a long time. We just don't know. But there's one fact, or one thing we need is we need to expand, but we got to do it responsibly and right. So I do appreciate having this kind of a team. So thank you, Scott.
Do we want to talk about that number now or do we want to wait?
Let's just do it right now if this is the proper time.
I think so. So I asked Jonathan Ward, our financial advisor, to run the bond at $88 million and then $98 million to tell me what the difference would be in the tax increase.
88, 98.
88, 98, because truth be told, I'm still worried about, there's just going to be unexpected things that come up. And if we ask for 98 and we only spend 88, we're golden. If we ask for 88 and we need to spend 98, we're in a lot of trouble. And so the difference between the tax increase would be from $46.35 a year on an average household of $88 million. 46.53, excuse me, 46.35.
Okay, a year on an average household.
Correct. And it would go up to 51.63.
At 98.
At 98.
You chose so far to give us a signal that you didn't want us to wrap it around the current bonds and slope it up slower, which would pay more interest up front and more principal later, but you chose instead, it appears to have a more abrupt.
Yeah, let's be true. I mean, I don't like to sugarcoat it. Let's tell people what it is. I mean, that may make, you may not get as many votes, but it's a lot fairer to the public rather than all of a sudden 2 years from now, well, you told me it was gonna be $40, now it's at $60, and then it's at $70, and then it cost us 10 million bucks more in interest. I don't like paying the bank's interest.
About 8 million
Sorry,
is where we are right now, is an $8 million difference in interest.
8, okay.
So instead of 5163, it would be 3857. But we're paying basically principal or interest only payments for the first few years, and then we have a whole bunch of interest, so we're paying $8 million more in interest.
8 million.
So yeah, you can save a little bit of money, but you're paying a whole lot more in the long run.
Yeah,
So I mean, that's 10%, so you could save 10% of the total cost of this project just by.
that's bad business.
I think it makes sense just to pay a straight line, and then the bonds roll off incrementally as we had anticipated already.
Yeah.
So my argument would be, commissioners, if we have to set a number for the parameters resolution in the next week or so, which is we do, I would much rather put in a $98 million parameter resolution than an $88 million. Yes, there's about a $5 difference in the per household price per year, but I think I don't think that anybody's gonna vote no because it's at 51 as
No.
opposed to
No.
46.
So we're talking 46 to 51,
Yeah,
and that's straight line.
that's straight line. So that saves them the interest cost instead of, charging them more. And then it gives the sheriff
Yeah.
extra room that if these
That's what
costs
you
come
do.
back and they're
Business.
higher, we're
Oh,
safe.
yeah. That's the story right there. There's the silver line. The way we're doing this will save us interest.
Yeah.
That's the message.
And we can message that, because it's factual.
That's
I think The
facts.
language on the ballot will only include the actual requests of 98 million.
Sure.
It won't- it
Bonds
won't-
up
it
to
won't
98.
Explain reasons why we're choosing 98. And they won't
That's
see on the
is that a
ballot
20 year?
$5 difference.
20 year.
Okay, and what interest rate are we anticipating?
So he does a coupon rate of 5%. We get a premium, but I think it was, I don't remember the actual. It was 3.6 or 3.7.
Okay,
He and I disagree, Scott and I do. Because my gut tells me 93 and his gut tells me 98. And so for full disclosure, we're not on the same page.
So mine would go up $5 a year, his would go up $250.
But what would happen is you'd reset that number next January, February, if it passed. Sorry, I throw down on everything because I don't know that it will, but if it does, those people out there. If you have a January, February date, then you have by then more detail, flesh on the bones as far as pricing, the cost model might show differently. Then you price the bonds to be more exact to what his final outcome might be in 4 or 5 months. If that makes sense. So it may come down from the 98 or 93. Or it might be about that sweet spot right there. But for it to go from 78 up to these numbers that we're talking about has been what's been tricky for us to digest and just deal with over the past few days.
right, I get it.
Yeah, again, like John says, this is the letter of credit. This is the line of credit amount that we're talking about here. It's not what we're actually going to spend. So that's why I'm risk averse, right? I don't want to have to try to find an extra $5 million or $10 million in the county budget somewhere. So that's why I'm saying
I'd rather ask more than we,
more than we need, without going too far. I don't want to ask for 200 million and push
No.
this, price it out of the market.
we
But
gotta
I
have
think-
justification.
Yeah, but for $5 a year, it's less than 50 cents a month. I think that argument hopefully would resonate, that it's worth the extra $5 per year just to have that room in case something happens.
Yeah. If not, we'd be digging 5 million or 10 million out of our pocket, which is not a good thing.
What's the school district doing to make up for their shortfall? How are they funding it? Do you know?
Tax increase.
Tax increase.
$60 million.
60 million, 64.
64, is it? Yeah,
That's a discussion that commissioners would have down the road if we're off the mark. And that's why thank you for the sheriff letting me open my mouth the other day, a week ago, but I decided to push the architect a little bit further than he wanted to be, I think, and And he had choices again, like I said, so. I like people that have a little bit more confidence in their numbers, and it wasn't evident that day.
So how confident are you on this 88 new number?
You can obviously see we're not. That's why we're up at 93 or 98.
Yeah.
As far as that line of credit as he described the scenario or that limits. So what we have then is the public then reacting to a larger number than 78. And that's challenging. It's complicated for the public to digest, get the message right, and kind of say, they haven't seen all these discussions. And all they see is this whopping big number. And it's fresh new taxes. It's not like the school district who has a line item on the tax notes already, and all they're doing is substituting out old bonds for new bonds, and the tax rate basically was gonna be the same as what they marketed 3 years ago when they did this. This is brand new taxes, and it's an element that is different. And I think the public's gonna have to figure out what's the justification and how do they get the message. I think that's what the sheriff's bumping up against with trying to get a private and public committee arranged to communicate information to, is to say, how will the public respond to that information and then vote?
Well, makes sense.
And does 78 make more sense, or is 78, 90, does that range palatable? Again, that'll be the 11th discussion tax wise with 10 entities raising taxes potentially this year. This would be the 11th topic in this year's discussion. Most all of them will be discussed in August. Like I said, school district was last week, the other 8 will be, or 7 will be this month. And then the fire district's already approved from a year ago. It's just the way their timing is, a calendar year. And then you guys would deal with your proposed tax increase later this year, right before the ballot, well, during that time frame.
Okay. What else, Sheriff? Any other questions or comments on the bond?
Not directly. Just looking at the 4-story building and the renovation. We've ran a whole bunch of scenarios. Chief Reese has been really pushing me to consider to move some space around. He thinks that we need to add a diversion center inside the Weber Justice Center. It's because we talked about adding a separate diversion center. One of the conversations would be about $1 million, $1.5 million. We think we have enough space inside the Justice Center, and then just and move everything on the has to do with the sheriff's office clear to the 4th floor. And the diversion center just seems like the right thing to do with all the other agencies that are the allied agencies, to bring them in as well. Just seems smart. Anyway, just thought I'd add that in there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I like that.
Yeah, I haven't been convinced the diversion center we've got up at the KD is really
That's just
up my views. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, Kevin Eastman, him and I have been talking a number of times about, he's got a couple buildings to the north behind his, and he wants to start a diversion center there. And I said, I don't care where, it's got to get going. But either way, Ogden. So I had a meeting with Chief Young and one member of his staff. And then I showed the presentation to all the mayors in their monthly, and I had Mayor Caldwell. I've shown them the plans. They like the whole concept. One thing that they all pointed out is Ogden's got so much going on downtown. They realize that this will pull a lot of that away from Ogden to help accomplish their goals. And we know that too. And every one of us is like, what can we do to help? Letters. Mayor Caldwell says this is an awkward time for him because he's on his way out. But he said in the meantime, I said, can you help with permits and stuff? And he said, whatever he can do to help speed this process up was an offer.
That'd be good.
But yeah, they see the benefit of moving Kiesel in this context out there. Be very beneficial for downtown Ogden. But if Kevin wants to keep it wants to make a diversion center in Ogden, it's gonna still kind of have a little bit of that there, but if we pull it out there, it will be very advantageous. 'Cause that's where the hub will be. Okay, so that's not directly related to the bond, but it makes more sense on the purpose of the facility.
The great challenge with this whole thing again is the medical wing was the priority, but it's not gotten to until all this other stuff is built first. The medical thing is last, and so it needs to be priced as right as we can get it, so that the last thing that's built is the priority, the medical area. And that's what makes this decision path a little bit more complicated, is your priority is built last. And it has to be funded last. So that's why I've been a little bit more engaged with pushing.
Well, if you remember right, John, that the portion of that medical is built simultaneously with the other.
Yeah.
But you're right, it is built last, but it's also built at the same time,
Yeah, outside.
the outside portion.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we understand that part.
That's all I have to report today.
That's it? Wow.
I mean, I don't know what else I could share. I mean, I could share a whole lot more. But I don't know if it's important for this meeting.
I would just add. In addition to what the sheriff is doing right now. Continuing to operate a facility. It's a tremendous undertaking. And just with the issues with the custody. Situation, which I mean. Completely separate issue, but business still has to continue on, and so it's like having
He's got a day job.
two full-time jobs.
Yeah,
So,
I get it.
I will just throw in really quickly. We did meet with our bond counsel. We went over all the statutory dates. We have the schedule. It's completed. So the next item up would be the bond issuance resolution work session, which would be on the 21st of August. So that would require at that time, the draft resolution is drafted. We just haven't put the financials into it. So at that point, we would need to make a decision on what that number was going to be in the resolution.
and all of that we can do without you even having to sit down and worry about that. It's just the number.
Yep.
Well, it doesn't sound like that number's gonna change much.
Well, I guess he's gonna win in the arm wrestle, which it bugs me a lot because he's younger.
Yeah.
So the 98 is probably where it's gonna be, just because
What was that again?
he's stronger than I am.
98, what's that, per month?
50, oh, per month, I don't know,
$51 a
51 per
year.
year.
On the average household.
So the
51 something.
tax notice annually would go $52.
5163, so divide that by 12, I don't do math in my head, but it's less than $5 a year, or $5 a month. So that's what we're saying, and I'm saying the difference between that and saying, what was the other number?
47 or 46?
46.35. The difference between those, that $5 extra per year, it's not worth the risk, in my opinion.
What is it at 93?
If we put it at 93.
If you went with his 93,
It would be
It's like
midpoint between those two.
it's like $1.50.
Well, it'd be $2.50, so I'm up basically $5, so he would
Okay.
be up 2.50.
Can I just hit him now?
Hitting now, why? But I think, I mean, with John's point that the medical wing, the priority is the last thing that gets finished. While yes, we can build portions of it now. I don't want to shortchange him. I don't want to have to come back to the sheriff and say, I'm sorry, you got to cut $5 million out of the medical wing now at this point, or you got to stop finishing your diversion center, or you got, you know what I mean? We don't want to have to make big drastic cuts.
No.
And the other risk is if we don't need it, we don't spend it.
Yeah,
It's like, the risk is if we undershoot, not if we overshoot.
yeah.
So I guess that's the question we're at right now, right? You know, need, want, right? You know, sometimes governments or even ourselves in our personal lives. You know, for our families, we buy stuff, we do stuff for today, we do stuff for tomorrow. That's why we talked about the third floor being core and shell. I mean, we could save, was it $7 million by not doing the third floor? Right? And so that'll save a lot of money right now. but then what do we pass on to 10 years from now?
Right,
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's not fair.
so I mean, and please, I'm trying to work through a problem through my head. Don't take any of this personal. So when we're talking about 99, 98, 88, I mean, I think we need to just take a number and run with it and not look back. Because if we're gonna hesitate, once we pull that trigger, we gotta look forward. If we're looking back, it needs to stop.
Yeah.
Because I can't have any reservation in this room about this bond because this is a big deal. I need everybody on board.
I think we're talking two different things. First of all, we're trying to figure out what could be a potential line of credit. Do we go up to 98 million as far as a line of credits in that mindset?
Right.
And if we pick a higher number, which is tricky when you go out on the ballot, the larger the number, the more delicate that
Right.
middle ground is. And that's an issue, is to say, do we push all the way up to 98 as far as our line of credit, so to speak, and use that as our cap or a top point, but we may commit at 90 or 85 in that range, and you got, at least we've capped it at 98. That's an issue. The second thing is that when we were doing the libraries back in 2013, 2015, there was a lot of internal discussions about where should we fill it out? And the Ogden branch or the Ogden Valley branch was just undone, even though their septic was backing up and it was just a whole pile of stuff. The Ogden Valley just took the hit and just didn't get built out until the very end. That's a whole different issue, is to say, once we're in the middle of this project, we have concerns. How do we tackle those? So I think we got two different issues. One, what do we cap this thing at as far as sending it out to the public and find the lowest number possible so that it's got a higher chance of passing, first of all. And then once we're into the project, how do we manage it the best we can and figure out as many ways to minimize the cost here and there so that we hit that same mark.
Does ARPA or anything like that, can that go to any infrastructure below ground or anything like that, maybe left over?
I don't think so, because one of the specific examples they gave was, can you use this money to build a correctional facility or expand a correctional facility because of increased population demands? And they said, no, that's specifically
Not to build a facility, but like underground or sewer lines and
well,
stuff
but
like
it would be
that.
going to the facility. So I would have a hard time arguing that the ARPA dollars would be eligible. I think that, I mean, if we're off $1 million, that's something the county can come up with. If we're off $10 million, that's a lot harder to come up with. And that's why I'm saying, I agree with you that I don't want to shortchange this. I don't want to have to go back to the public in 5 years and say, you know what? We didn't do it right because we cut all these things. We need to do some more again. So that's what I'm saying. Let's just pick the number at 98. That gives us an extra $10 million in case things happen. We've got $10 million to play with. It's not a huge difference in terms of what we're asking the public for. Pick that number, and commissioners, this is completely your decision. I'll support whatever you
If we
decide.
go with the 98, does that mean that Ford gets his pickleball courts? Because I can't support that.
No, this is all gonna be correctional related, so.
Okay. I
Well,
tried.
Gee, you tried anyway. I need that pickleball court.
Just from a taxpayer perspective,
I'll put a Ryan.
I would pay for this. And just from an informational perspective, if it came out that I would be paying $50 a year, like that, just even $50, that is a lot more appealing to me than if you came out and said 51.63. Are you hearing me on that?
I do. I guess I have a slightly different opinion. I think 51.63 shows precision that we're calculating exactly out, whereas $50 just sounds like we swapped
Okay,
it.
all right.
Yeah,
But
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
$50 never ended in a 0 or a 5.
Yeah.
All right.
that's my experience with them. If I can say it's 51.63, they know I've got to count
You
it.
know, I'd rather know from a taxpayer, and again, I would say that most of the taxpayers out there, they don't look at the 160 million for the school district. They look at, what's it gonna cost me per year? They're gonna look at the 60, 70, 80, whatever it is.
I would agree.
They're gonna be looking at the $51, not the 98. I think you gotta go with the 98. Now, the question is I don't wanna get in the same situation we've had this discussion with the library, where we actually had to go back in because the cost of operations, the programming, wasn't ever included in that bond. But I'm assuming under this, we've got enough, there's been enough discussion, if we've got to go out and hire 30 more deputies, we're covered. Because that's the next problem that I see coming down the road, is what we went through with the library. Remember, we had to do the library tax increase for that exact reason.
So we've discussed this with the sheriff, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, but we think that, so we're down, I don't know how many we're down, probably still 20 positions or more.
I wish.
Yeah, so what the sheriff has said is that if we keep his existing operating budget as is, as in we continue to fund the 30 positions or 20 positions we don't have, that he's not going to have to ask.
Okay.
Well, whatever the number is, he's not going to have to ask for
Right.
additional operating costs, is that correct?
Yes, so that's correct. So we're down X amount of positions. If that staffing number does not change, but if they're all filled, we don't have to increase staffing.
Got it. Okay. So
That is
basically,
true.
we have it covered
Yeah.
with, we're funding those positions now, but they're not live.
The other thing is that the new building, the 4-story building, if you were to compare it to Kiesel, requires less people to staff it.
That's what I would hope, yeah.
The way it's designed, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I like our 98. I'd rather not have to go back in. I'd like to, not have to look at cuts 3 or 4 years down the road when we start under construction. We know that we're covered.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
I do wanna,
I lose to him 4 out of 5 times.
Yeah.
And it's hard,
Yeah,
because he's smart.
I don't blame you. I feel bad too.
I do
Well,
wanna,
it's that he's got that little different college degree, I think.
so I do wanna add one more thing. I contacted Justin Martinez. He's the new marshal for the state of Utah. He's also the former sheriff of Summit County. I told him he knows about our potential bond and situation within Weaver County. And I told him that, the growth where the marshals could be eventually moved completely out of 12th Street, so on and so forth. And I told him about Kiesel. He says, if it needs to be, we would be happy to draft an agreement or some sort of contract where we will take Kiesel if this for 150 minimum. Even if we don't fill it, we'll pay the 150 beds no matter what.
Times how many beds?
150 beds. times-
150 beds. But
No matter what.
He's
says
giving you the rate or?
He hasn't, but he says we'll take them and we can negotiate the rate.
Okay.
We found out from other offices across the state that some of them, they're up to 130 right now.
Okay.
But this is
Well, that's good news.
a year or two down the road.
Yeah.
And he did say also on the phone, I says, well, how bad do you need them? He says, if you empty 12th Street right now, we'll take every bed you got.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Interesting.
Can I ask, I guess the issue is, we don't know what the public's willing to tolerate. Maybe at the original 70 million, it's just too much, and so maybe it doesn't matter if the difference between that and the 98 million. What do you all feel about the messaging that goes out there shows that, we may be overestimating, we were being conservative, we're just wanting to make sure that we don't have a situation where we have a shortfall, so it might not be this number. Does that look good? Does that look bad to the public?
Yeah, I think we explained that. I think Jonathan Ward has done that in various campaigns too and said, look, this is what we think it's going to cost. We're asking for this in case there's inflation. We don't want to have to come back to you and ask for more, but this is the plan. The plan is 88 million, not 98 million.
How do we message that? Because we're just going to have the number on the ballot.
Yeah, you're gonna have to message that in your open houses, in your town halls and all that sort of stuff. The ballot is going to say.
Without
98.
sounding supportive.
Yeah, well, you have your First
How
Amendment
do you
rights.
say that?
You have your First Amendment rights, and so you can take whatever data you
Completely
have.
just phrase that. I'm not a. that's
I know,
not
but
my
it's government lies, right? How do you say that in the messaging? No, I'm talking from the, you guys always lie. How do you say, the ballot's gonna say 98, but I'm saying, oh, no, really, it's gonna be 88.
I think we say it could be up, 98, we say up to, we just don't know yet.
Yeah.
And once we get more data as it goes along, we're gonna fine tune it, but in the beginning, We just want to come to the public and ask you once. We don't want to have to come and have another, like Weaver School District or do it.
Yeah, the message is there is we don't want to be a Weaver School District.
And then
We don't want to come back in a year and ask you for another 15 million bucks.
I think you also.
That's the story.
64
million. Yeah, well,
That's
I was, I'm trying to get that thought out of my head.
You take that same
64
information
million.
and then compare it to where we started and
Talk about
say,
stupid.
we've modified this design. So that we're not asking for the sun, moon and the stars, we're asking for what we actually need. We're being very conservative. And so it's a smart approach. And so it's to the public's benefit if we ask up to 98.
Well, I think, and maybe, and I don't do this for a living, but I think we have to sell what we're getting out of this, not that we've lowered the cost a little bit. I think we need to sell, we're not just building more jail space, we're building the Justice Center, which we're actually trying to solve some of these issues. We don't want people just coming back to the jail. So the sheriff is selling a Justice Center that has a whole bunch of stuff that we don't, all we need is a medical wing. Let's just build a $40 million medical wing and be done with it. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to solve an issue that's bigger than just the medical wing. Yes, we're trying to solve the medical issue, but there's more to that we're trying to solve. So I think that's the story we have to tell is this is what we're trying to do. This is the sheriff's vision for what justice looks like.
Yeah, you're sorry. It's the reinvestment. It's the dollars you're gonna get back in having a better community to live in.
And we're asking citizens to put in $5 or $5.50 a month to help solve this problem. And
$4.50.
Whatever the math works out to be, yeah.
I do
So-
math in my head.
I don't, I do, it's fine. But I think so, but then I do think you say, look, here's the plan, it's $88 million, we're asking for 90. I remember being, go ahead.
No, I'm right. I'm being that one guy in the crowd that seems to always stir somebody up and says, well, why, you're telling us it's 88, but it's gonna be on the bond, the ballot that's 98. And how do we know that, and I mean, I always prepare for the worst case. That's why I'm asking.
So that was me in the Davis School District bond where they were coming and they were telling me that they weren't gonna raise my taxes when they were, and they were telling me that it was gonna cost this, and they asked for an authorization of this, and in my mind, I'm like, well, they're asking for 98, it's gonna cost 98, because when do construction projects come in under budget? And they actually ran out of money, they had to come back this next year and ask for additional bonds. So I don't disagree with you, and maybe we just say, look, the price is, it's going to be no more than $98 million. We're capping it at no more than $98 million. And in the information, you can say, it looks like it's gonna cost 88, but we have some design contingencies in there. We don't want to have to come back and ask for this again. So that's why we're at 98. We can work with whatever firm.
See, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to create an argument with you. I'm just trying to strategize.
Well, so I was that person, right? And I was right because it came in more than it cost, you know what I mean? So we can figure that out. Maybe somebody who's had more experience in how to message this than I have. But I just think that we set that upper limit where we're not gonna get burned.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Okay, Sheriff, what else?
No, does, you guys still want to relieve us the stress at the animal shelter?
I think you're doing a heck of a job out there personally now.
Yes, we do.
Who are we gonna give it to?
Sean
You come up with a good location and.
I think all incarcerations need to happen on the same campus,
Yeah.
just soon.
I see animal control up there. They got little red lights.
Can you imagine the
share.
animals walking around in orange suits?
What you do is that's parts of the therapy or part of the
Yeah.
rehab.
Use that, how much for that?
Well, don't they the best friends? Isn't that what Arlen did down in Salt Lake? They're
Yeah.
using that?
Are
Best
we
friends.
willing to
Friends
look
are-
at a
yeah.
special service district or turning it over to best friends? So I'm not saying let's give it to Sean. Let's get it out from
Those
you,
are the
but
two
why does it
options
have to
that
be
we
you
talked
or
about.
Sean?
No, we talked about that, Sheriff, actually.
Well, the reason I say Sean or somebody else is because that can be done like this.
Sure.
That's the only reason. Anybody else is gonna take time. This 3.5 month sprint, as we're calling it in the office.
Is it wearing you out?
The,
Animal
Yes.
shelter?
Oh, no.
the,
The rest of it.
Well, I knew the rest of it is, but
no, I've seen a lot of stress on Reese, as you can see why, as you guys know, we got that lady in our office that's accused of dealing drugs, and then you got the 4 deaths that honestly are quite easy to explain, but not to the public. Anybody who wants to look why they died, it's just like, oh, that makes sense. And then you got, then you got, these other things and we've asked Chief Perry to be a part of this because he's very good at messaging and some other. We asked him to be a part of, kind of be our taskmaster to make sure we're on the right path. And we're just trying to look at ways to remove some of these responsibilities if it's feasible, but we'll do it.
Well, the long-term plan, I think, is to go to a district or a nonprofit. If we think we need to, switch it internally for a short period of time, then we need to address that.
Well, I'd like to say something about a recent incident, but it'd probably be best not, because it involves personnel. Like about the district.
Okay.
So, but anyway, if you wanna,
The district?
yeah, well, sorry, about the animal
Animal
shelter, yeah.
We could go into closed session if you want to, or we can address it another time.
Yeah, probably another time, maybe.
I got a meeting in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, I think we gotta probably schedule something on a work session to look at some alternatives and then long-term. I really think the long-term is different than what we do.
Well, record or not, Mayor Beasley's a jerk. He handled something with the animal shelters clearly inappropriate.
He what?
And he wanted to sue us
Why?
just because of a dog incident. You just got out of line.
Same one.
Yeah. And I just had a conversation with him and I said, you shouldn't be involved the way he is. And he just, and I said, this is an enterprise. I said, you're on the board. He goes, I am. I go, yes. I said, you could make these changes. Well, then you need to change the meetings. I go, when do you want the meetings to be changed, Mayor? We'll do it when you have your quarterlies with sheriff's office. Then I'll go. I mean, there's some responsibility there. But there's no ownership there.
Right.
And I just think that there's a reliance on always somebody else. Clearly, I'm trying to get Sean to take that responsibility. Right?
a bad job selling this, the conversation.
But at least you're upfront and honest about it.
Right, but I'm just saying, what I'm saying is I'm also trying to reaffirm what Scott is saying.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be given to these, to not be our burden, the county, right?
It really shouldn't be.
Right.
No, this is yeah,
it needs to be, because these things can be handled itself, but they just don't want to do it, and they're.
but it's a lot
Big
easier to
problem.
pass that on to somebody else because it's a lot easier to point fingers when
It
you're not the
is.
one making the decision.
And he was tearing up all these
Yeah.
neighbors, jeez.
For some reason, that doesn't surprise me, but anyway, so be it. Thank you, Sheriff. Anything else?
No.
All right,
Motion to adjourn.
we have a motion.
You ready?
A second, all those in favor? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Did you ever see that 16